All right, looks like we're live. Oh my goodness, I'm over there playing with my, I don't know, that not, what do you call this part of hair? Anyways, it's a really bad habit that I have. Uh, Excessive transparency and vulnerability, I guess. Looks like we're live. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's the delay. Looks like it's about 20, 30 seconds. And where's the chat? All right, perfect. Bull Sandy, I was actually just about to send you the link, but I see that you are here now, my friend. All right, so welcome back, everybody. In this video, for catch everybody up that may be joining us for this sporadic event, we were discussing. Actually, let me just get my actual focused streaming setup up. I'm still figuring out a system or an algorithm to be able to uh, do these live streams. And so I appreciate you guys and the excellent feedback I've been receiving so far about how to, I guess, just be the best possible when it comes to growing as a streamer and as a leader in this community. It's something where part of this, part of what I was looking for in the early stages of this process of working for Kylin was, even though I knew with the inevitable $100 million scale up that we would do on the next push upwards, and then of course it would eventually go down, but then we'd go even higher the next time. And it was something where I was concerned that the video quality and audio quality would be so bad in the early days that I almost just delayed action entirely. Wait to, potentially to decide to wait, and instead of, I guess, move fast and break things, to try to create the perfect system and get the right microphone and some fancy camera and all this other stuff. And I had no process for making videos. I discovered very quickly that making videos just live was not my thing at the time, because I would ramble and I had a lot of trouble articulating myself. And yeah, the tech setup was pretty terrible. It was a webcam and some wireless headphones that I had, which actually were way better than anything I had before. So I actually felt like our audio was good compared to where it could have been. But it is something where I wanted it to be an authentic journey that people could actively see the growth and the development. And you know what? That's exactly what's happening. We can see the transition and the progression from this potato quality camera, as well as this really fuzzy audio, and compare that to the brilliantly written scripts that we have coming out. I mean, I recently finished the final edits for Parachains Part 2, and I read over the scripts for Parachains Part 3 and Part 4. And man, it is some excellent, excellent material. And to see the way that our copywriter, after he just celebrated having a newborn beautiful baby girl, it's something where the content is more engaged. We have better graphics. We even have some videos and GIFs in some of the material we're making. We're testing out new things and figuring it out as we go, because just like most people in this industry, we're also a bit new. And while we are marketers by background, it's something where the rules don't work the same in this industry of blockchain as they do on, I guess, some other traditional environment. So one of the things that we'll be going into much, much deeper later is being able to, I guess, put together a strategy in a manner that we're able to have the highest chance of success to get to where we want to go to, and we minimize the volatility, or at least the damage along the way, or at least find a way to hedge it. So if we know there's a likely negative that can occur, well, what kind of other direction can we have to have a disproportionate positive if the adverse scenario occurs? And it's something where it can be a bit of a weird style of thinking. It can get pretty dark at times, because you have to constantly think about what could happen, what probably will happen, what probably won't happen, but if it did, would be super bad. I'm sugarcoating and doing my best to speak in as accessible of a way as possible, because I know, as I've been learning, it's very difficult to use DYOR, or to really fully educate myself whenever the people are speaking a crazy vernacular language of blockchain and consensus algorithms, and whatever the hell automated hyperparameter optimization means. Of course, these things are more common to me now, and for sure a daily type occurrence in my environment. At the same time, though, it's something where that's not the case for most people. And I'm playing, I'm still learning on what spectrum I should do. So it's super duper too casual. Anyways, I'll peek into my mind in the self-assessment algorithm. So it's something where we'll be talking a lot about these processes of thinking, because understanding the architecture and design of decision making is the foundation of decision making pipelines. And machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of these innovative big data technologies that people talk about, it's all for the reason of making decisions. An AI is simply an automated system that makes decisions, which then you can layer decision-making systems that build decision-making systems that build decision-making systems. And there's some pretty impressive stuff that exists right now. And it's going to get logarithmically more advanced as the days continue to persist. At the same time, it's something where there's not a lot of, I guess, information about this. I hesitated because there is a lot of information about data science. It's just bridging the gap between diving into the world of algorithmic thinking and going from a place where one's probably never considered what the probability curve of an event occurring might be, at least not very often and not consciously. It's just not necessary in most environments and most situations. And so it's something where we're really looking at how to break things down in the best, simplest, most humanized, while also the most effective way. Because the better we can learn to teach and to educate as a community, the faster we'll grow. Because this opportunity that's available, it is still big tech. We are on the cutting edge. And while that is often used as just a marketing buzzword, in this case here, it is quite literal. We're creating things that we don't know what's on the other end, and we don't actually know exactly how. And if you look at every single blockchain network, I mean, we could just look at the top 5 list and ask ourselves, where's ETH 2.0? Cardano, are you doing okay over there, buddy? And even Solana, they are absolutely crushing it in lots of ways, and also have problems that need to be solved. In our case, we're definitely punching above our weight class as a community, because it's something where machine learning and AI it's considered very difficult for most people like myself. And I just kind of tore through it because it's something I've wanted to do for most of my life, a literal dream to be able to study data science. At the same time, though, unless someone wanders in and is really dedicated, it can be challenging. Therefore, if the proportion of people that would be able to get in deep enough to not only understand the different elements and categories within data science, but to be able to see where the opportunities for improvement are, what's practical enough to be able to build within the available resources of capital, time, and talent, or just effort or action, whatever you want to call that. It's something where, yeah, there's a lot of directions you could go. Sorry, I blanked for a moment. I was considering how long should I go on a topic before looking at the chats, and then which chat should I look at. Either way, interesting stuff. I'm speaking this all out loud, by the way, because while half of this is a community event, something where now it's evening over here in Europe and a couple hours of evening in the States, Asia, I think it's the middle of the night over there, about to be morning. So it is morning technically, but sun up as far as that. Anyways, it's something where we're really documenting this stuff to be able to play with different ways of chopping up content to create more content. It's a thesis that I began putting together probably 3 to 5 years ago. Actually, 6 years ago is when I really first had the architecture. But it's been about 5 years of actively studying this concept, and yeah, being able to learn how to make the most out of content. It's kind of like the Elon Musk spaceship versus airplane example. Before Elon's vertical takeoff and landing rockets, VTOL for short, a rocket ship, they would blow up most of it because they didn't know how to bring it back down. Just technologically speaking, we weren't there, and the scientific community decided to have consensus that it was impossible. Thank God for Elon, who fought tooth and nail to be able to prove that it was not only possible, but extraordinarily profitable, and the only way that we can sustainably manage to get to Mars and beyond. So it's something where, in this case, our version, the marketing version, the modern marketing, this Web3 marketing version of the vertical takeoff and landing rocket would be automated content syndication. So this is something that then, full disclosure, and this is the kind of stuff which this deep dive is for. Actually, one of the bullet points I have is to go over my story, because when we were data mining the chats inside of Telegram and Discord, we saw quite a few people with comments about who the heck am I, and why was I made the CEO, and what is that going to do for the prior to Kylin? Why do we have a marketer running a tech company? And these are reasonable questions. And so, yeah, we'll do a deep dive in that part, and also discuss what my, I can't even call it a side business, because it's something that it's been a consultancy I've been building for the better part of half a decade. And yeah, so to be able to talk about how we balance that, how we see things as a, I guess, as a team moving forward, because kind of like the whole concept where I do envision that in the future, the 9 to 5 is going to be an ancient relic of a time that we'll probably look back with a little bit of shock, like, why did we do things that way for so long? I mean, to think about the hours of time wasted commuting and the inefficiencies that occur from people being pushed into literal teeny tiny boxes and forced to wear a certain dress code for no reason except for being able to be managed and controlled better. I guess technologically speaking, maybe there weren't better alternatives. I'm not there. I can't judge. But it's something where nowadays we have the technology, and it's blockchain. We're actively building it. So we have the ability to create trustless systems. That's what decentralization and blockchain is really good at doing. And to make it to where a person is able to potentially, hypothetically, and this is the direction we're moving towards, and the type of value that we create in this, I don't know if I want to say machine, this factory, I guess, would be the better way to put it. This factory that we're building, it's something where it accelerates the process to that. Anyways, so I did get off track. I want to take a moment and catch up on the chats. We haven't even hit the list yet, by the way, everybody. I'm going to be giving these quick random disclosures throughout this live stream, because I'm guessing people are going to be coming in waves. Some will hop on, some will hop off. And it'll just be a reminder for folks of kind of what we're doing, why it is this dude is sitting in front of a camera rambling about data, and the fact that this is probably going to be going on for a while. So it's not a like a scheduled thing. We don't have an itinerary. Itinerary. Oh goodness, it's crazy. I'm trying to learn one language. I'm forgetting my own home language. Excuse me, mouth is getting a bit dry. So it's something where, yeah, I wanted to say that because based off of the last nearly 2.5 hours of footage, it very well could be another 8+ hours of going through this material. And I'm being optimistic with that estimate. If someone asked me a question and they wanted an expectation of time, I wouldn't give that. I would be much more conservative. But in this case here, I'm pushing to see how much I can pull out. At the same time, though, I'm not going to hold back on the descriptions because the point of doing this live stream is to practice new ways of creating content from large chunks of other content, and then finding what creative ways could we use that to be able to adapt to different social media environments. Because of course, a video might work great on YouTube, but if we just copy and paste it into TikTok, it's not the same environment, it's not the same style. And so that means that it's an interesting formula. Anyways, though, that's some of the stuff that my other company, my, I guess you call it my part-time job, my side job. That's the kind of stuff we figure out there. And I bring that up because in marketing, we're just one small little bubble of the actual business services world. And so if we take a look at some of the bigger players like finance, insurance, I mean, Dylan talks a lot about the airline insurance example, describing that if the blockchain could accurately determine when an airplane arrived and when it left, and the plane is late and causes your flight to be delayed, boom, instant payout because there's a system that's tracking everything. That's the value of what an Oracle does. It pulls the off-chain data, such as what's happening on a plane, and brings it on-chain to activate a smart contract automatically. So that way, then it's tamper-proof. We can be audited. It can be completely decentralized. That way, you don't have to trust that your insurance company is going to pay out. You know, this isn't what I intended, but there is an example that I've wanted to put on camera at some point, and this seems like an appropriate moment. So part of my background, when I was very young, shortly after high school, I actually worked in insurance. I was first an insurance representative, and at one point wanted to go the whole route to being a full-blown agent. And this was a tough time in my life. It was when my stepfather, John, had just passed away recently. And so naturally, going through the horrible experiences that would follow a situation like that, um, I was more acutely aware of life insurance and its relative value. And so I took more time to understand how life insurance works because we went through a horrible situation with it where it, well, I'll give an example of how it worked where I worked at State Farm. And it was something where I liked State Farm a lot. I was choosing which company to work for because they had heart from what I saw. And I could see that like the way that each individual practice was ran by an agent, that they branded it with their name. It wasn't some just blind corporate, you know, image that they have on there. These are individual people that make real relationships with customers, and that made me feel comfortable going in that direction. So either way, there was a situation where a customer's son had died. I think he was 6, and it was tragic and horrible because we had just seen this young man maybe a week earlier. Delightful, happy kid. And that night, the agent sent out a multiple 5-figure check immediately, or to be sent to her. Had it driven by somebody local, another person of the team. So they drove there hours away in the middle of the night to make sure that this woman had something, and then we made sure that she got that got the insurance payout as fast as possible. But that's not what happens to everybody. And I can't say that's what happens to everyone at State Farm. I'm not here to say State Farm is excellent. I haven't researched them in 10 years. So I realize that everything online, it can be turned in lots of different ways, but that is an entirely other conversation. But in this case here, what we had experienced was it was over 6 months of 6 months plus of fighting. It's not the time to be dealing with paperwork and bureaucracy and all sorts of other situations, especially when a family is probably going through the worst. And someone passes, and that's the nature of life insurance. That's what they interact with. There's certain functions and systems that should be handled with delicate care. And it's something that those systems can become corrupted. They can become made inefficient. And when you're talking about something this important, it's mission critical that it works. So when we talk about data validation, when we talk about data systems, when we talk about like the relative value of data, well, the difference we're talking about is in one company, they're able to ensure a quick payout because there's a system in place. In this case, the relationships built by the family offices, the family practices of the various agents, and they have quite a process to be able to become an agent. And so this system makes it to where they're able to make decisions quickly, more quickly. So I go through this entire example because I guess after months and months of researching the market to determine what's the best way to potentially educate and train um, a very complex topic, I had found that authenticity seems to work the best. And to just share a story and to relate how I've learned it, how the person has learned it, because then someone who resonates with that, or maybe there's just a parallel in their lives enough that they can connect with the message, that's where the learning happens. So I don't know. I'm testing this out. So I'd love feedback if you guys like this strategy. The other alternative is to have a more structured approach and talk about the vocabulary and the history and facts and statistics. I can Google them, but we're more looking at the fundamentals right now. And for sure, there's a lot. I'm scratching the surface on everything I'm describing. And even these probable 8 hours that I'll be streaming for, it's still scratching the surface. So I've been trying my best to get the process out. We've been making documentation along the way to, in the future, write a story of this is 5 years of focus for us. Actually, that's a good topic I'll have to add on to the list. So yeah, it's something where to be able to, yeah, we're at year number 1 and things are way ahead of scheduling and I forgot what I was doing. So I need to not distract myself while I am streaming because I realize now it is super easy to forget what one's saying when that happens. Anyway, so it's something where with insurance, there's a big difference in the customer satisfaction, the customer loyalty, when you have a company that really takes care of its customers. In the States, fun fact, 25% of the entire US population has their, I believe it's their auto insurance through state farms. So a significant chunk of all accidents is between, the insurance company is on both sides. This company has dominated, is my point. They've absolutely crushed it. And it's because they've created systems that are able to make decisions quickly and effectively. They're extraordinarily risk averse, and they're highly strategic in the way that they manage their treasuries with the portfolio allocation algorithms and whatever internal management and quality control systems they've developed over the, I believe, century or so that they've been in existence. So that same process where, sure, maybe machine learning as we know it now isn't what they were doing 50 years ago at a company like State Farm, and I'm using them as an example, but you can extrapolate this to any type of insurance. I just wanted to branch out a little bit from the airline examples because those are already some pretty big shoes. So I think I'll make my own footprints. But it's something where in this case, when we look at the monetary value of that, well, insurance companies usually have a significant amount of holdings. A company of State Farm size, you're talking about the $100+ billion dollar level, and many insurance companies are closer in the T's, trillions. And at those, when the stakes are that high, the value of security of what happens in the decision-making processes is very high. So it's something that if you can validate that a system works better than what they're doing, there's not a lot of emotion made in that decision, because if it creates a better customer experience, then the quantifiable value of making this system change or tech upgrade, or the point is the end user, they don't care what the thing is, what the solution is. What they care about is how does it benefit them? How does it make them money? How does it save them money? How does it mitigate risk? This perspective. I say this because, this is a, I guess I was going to say a segue, but I am going to go and dive into the chats for a bit. But it's something where this is where oh, maybe I won't, because again, I looked at the chats. That's so interesting. I wonder what it is that when I look at the chats and try to read something, boom, my mind spaces. Fascinating. So, yeah, anyways, into the chats it is. Let's see. Bull Sander, hello, my friend. Can you post the link on YouTube? I'll forward it to our channels. Yeah, man. Did I drop it already? Oh, thank goodness I did. Okay, awesome. Yes, forward this video everywhere. Thank you. Gina, hello. How did the team come up with the militia? So awesome, in my opinion. I appreciate that, brother. It's something where I don't know if I just played too many real-time strategy games as a kid or what, but I've always been fascinated by military strategy. At one point, actually, I guess, moment of shameless vulnerability. When I was a kid, I really thought I would make a great military general, and it was because I was a dark kid, but I would always consider, like, man, a general, they have to make some tough decisions, because I mean, it might be a lose-lose situation, and someone up the command chain has to be the one to press the button or metaphorically pull the trigger. And if they're both a lose situation, they're gonna catch a lot of flack no matter what they do. But maybe in one situation, the losses would be in the millions, and the other, it's going to be in the tens of thousands. And someone has to choose. So I always thought, like, wow, I would probably take a lifetime to learn that type of decision-making capacity. Huh. I'm realizing I might be literally born for this. That's wild. Because I didn't realize as a kid I've been thinking about decision-making pipelines. Cool. Anyway, so it's something where and I was looking at it as when and how I lost my track there. What did you say there? Yeah. So when I looked at, like, the idea of military, that's why I say call to arms. When you arm our people up with ammunition of educational materials and quality marketing material elements, and lots and lots of events to participate in, to attract and to encourage engagement among various different ecosystems and archetypes of there's just different character types within this community. Anyway, so yeah, I thought it was a cool idea because we're all starting off. We're small, we're volunteers. I mean, I work for the company now, but I was a volunteer for months before that and spent dozens and dozens of hours researching and writing up reports that were dozens of pages long. And thank you for everybody who took the time to read them. I often feel like some people didn't read them. And so either way, as a militia, we're the ones who are writing the first rules. We're putting together the initial systems, and we get to decide how we want the direction we want to move this company, to move this organization, to move this network. So I'm glad you like it, brother. Mark. Yeah, and Mark, I did consider, like, a lot of people are touchy about military jargon. And I was weighing, like, man, well, where do we go? And well, I just went with what's authentic and natural for me. And I do look at it as, while I don't encourage violence of any type, it is something that, unfortunately, the world is a crazy place, and it's not always predictable. And somebody is going to be in these positions. And if we have an opportunity to make a system to build something that could potentially make that better, I look at it as the negative side of the perspective of, I guess, the military stuff genre. There's just a lot of benefits that we can also provide. That the way I look at it is, like, I live to provide value to the world. And at any time that I don't feel like I'm moving in the direction of what I'm supposed to do, of what I feel is my purpose, well, I don't see much motivation. Let's just say that. And it's something where, yeah, in this case, to be authentic, to be natural, it seemed to be the best approach, and it seemed quite positive. Bridge for Polkadot. I don't know what you're going there with that, Alexandre. Not sure how to respond. Yeah, Bulls here. The Netherlands sounds so peaceful. I'm excited to see. Gina, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, man, it's where the future is going. And even though I can count on both of my hands how many times I've posted on social media in the last 3 years, I knew it was time to get out of my shell and to be able to learn what it takes to be able to build something awesome, because I knew, well, I didn't know much about data, but I knew it wasn't going anywhere and it would likely be very, very profitable in the future. And if the market was crashing, which it inevitably was, data would probably be the absolute most profitable, most scalable, most impactful, just hits all of the right boxes industry to be in. Yeah, it's something where I'm delighted to be able to have this opportunity. Satyajit, thank you so much. We do our best, and we're getting better every day. It's something that everybody in this industry is learning, and we do all work hard, but it's something that it comes from a place of passion. If we didn't love what we do, there's no way we would be here. And it's something that while we absolutely work the hardest that we can to get the best results that we can, it is also something where it's a group effort. And the fact that you guys show up and there's a community that is supportive, and the ambassadors, I can't talk about them enough, because the way that they protect the chats and moderate to make sure that people can have wholesome, positive, and not, wait, positive is subjective, but at least productive conversation, to where it's not just a battlefield in there. Um, yeah, this is something that it's a beautiful place. Yes. Yeah, we'll see. It'll be good to slice these streams up into pieces. I'm really interested to see what the ultra long form content test results look like, because I mean, the data suggests absolutely explosive growth. And it's weird. I'm hesitating because it it's disproportionate. I mean, we're talking about an outlier outside of probability, and um, yeah, so I'm excited to find out what kind of results that there are, because the secret is in breaking the content down and making it useful. And then the secret is having a marketing infrastructure able to support that. Again, why it's useful, where part of the reason why, I guess, quick opportunity to go over, it's okay, I want to go further into this, but the quick version of it, why it makes sense to have a, I guess, quote unquote, marketing guy in the lead position, is because I was a marketing guy, but you can ask anybody who knew me when I worked in marketing. I always described myself as a finance guy disguised as a marketing guy, because when I was working in finance, I understood that most companies don't go out of business because they have too much money. Typically, they run out of money, and the reason they don't have money is because they don't have customers. So if I learned how to market, if I could figure out how this strange world of digital marketing and advertising works, I knew I could mitigate my risk on whatever companies I would invest in and build. And because my strategy is to create a system, a network, a constellation of companies that are all able to interoperate and scale and build as a, well, something as an on ramp and off ramp to this superhighway we call blockchain. Well, yes, it was a step in the direction we wanted to go. Awesome. Well, thank you for the feedback. Brakazruk. Oh, I can't believe I tried to pronounce that. Let's call you Baraka. But yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that, but the images definitely are vivid when recalling a memory, much more so than a structured document. And what I'd love to have is to figure out a system to build a visual component that can go with these lives or whatever material I may discuss. It's why I'm recording where there's so much space next to me. So that way, whenever the editors are testing, then there's plenty of space for them to play with. Though some of the videos I did whoopsies, and I put myself in the wrong angle. I'm learning too. Yeah, when it comes to if you can explain things to a child, then you truly understand it. I wonder if that's part of the challenge because yeah, I'm still learning most of these things. And at one point, I definitely struggled with quite a bit of imposter syndrome around like being in blockchain and working in this industry. I think most people go through that phase, and it's a constant battle. At the same time, after going to Miami and spending time around other engineers and other developers and to talk to an actual quant and to meet people that are doing the things that are the headline stories I read and hear about all the time. And to hear these same people say that they feel like they're just getting started, that they're still learning, to talk about the how do I do the excellent word in English? I can't remember it now though. But the way that all of us know that feeling of having an idea and chasing it and all the stuff that one goes through and diving deep into this pond we call blockchain development and with our case, big data and data engineering. It's something where, yeah, explaining it simply, it can be tough because to explain it's a little bit of a different part of the brain, I guess, than to just learn it well enough to apply it. Because then when we explain it so simply, there's other component parts we've got to be able to attach to describe stuff. If I think about it, it's actually a similar challenge with talking about process. Even right now, this marketing campaign, the way that we structured things, because obviously Kylin doesn't have a marketing department. And I'll be frank, I don't think it's a good use of resources to dump $250,000 or something into a marketing campaign, which this is a perspective that many people probably don't have unless they have operated or ran a blockchain project. When you see these like when marketing, what kind of stuff are you doing? Each one of those packages typically ranges anywhere from the low to mid five figures to, for the good ones, six figures, multiple six figures, and yeah, millions. I mean, look at crypto.com and FTX dropping inordinate amounts of money on stadiums. Imagine what people spend to be able to get digital conversions that they can actually track and quantify their results. It's something where to be able to crack this code it is a bottleneck. It's a hurdle because, well, we didn't have a CMO this year until around September, and even then, our systems weren't exactly the most efficient at the time, and so it was still probably 3 weeks for deployment on the proposal that's been floating around for almost 6 weeks. There was just other problems to attack. There were just other things to be rebuilding. And now that we've got the community together, we've got to where I know Bullsand has been absolutely instrumental in, I would say, coaching me. I feel like it's a Rocky Balboa film, and he's training me on how to be able to interact and understand and how different things work. And I'll ask him questions about, where did this come from, or why do people do this, and the insights and knowledge that he's shared with me. This type of knowledge share, this organic, natural connections that these relationships that are built amongst people, that is what a community is. That's the conversion that we're looking for. And to build that, it's a different type of marketing than what we usually do. Dang it, I forgot what I was saying. I got nervous again. Yes, if you can understand it simply. So yeah, it's something where after talking to so many people that were, I mean, they're the kind of people that I would fanboy out over, because they're just so smart. And to hear the way that they overcame challenges along the way, and to hear the ridiculous, I mean, every blockchain person's got some stories, because man, there is a lot of pressure. Everything is changing. If you think that there's a lot of changes externally when you're reading the updates, increase that by a factor of 4. And that's the average day for a blockchain person. It's a very specific type of individual that would enjoy this environment of actually building things inside a blockchain, but that's also part of the opportunity. For right now, it's very difficult. These systems are quite primitive. Of course, Substrate Rust is a solution that Gavin Wood and the team spent 4 years building just because it didn't exist to have a, essentially outsourced blockchain security system to build on top of. And now here we are building the data management, data organization, and data monetization infrastructure, because there isn't a marketplace by which to interact with any of the data solutions. And all of this is still probably 3 layers of abstraction away from the full mass adoption, when anybody can wander into a beautiful app store like marketplace, click a couple of buttons, and boom, bam, Dunskies, they've got a full-blown machine learning swarm, and they don't even know it. They just know that there's a problem that they're facing, and now a solution is occurring. And the same way that when someone in the near future hops into a full self-driving Tesla, sits down, the car already knows where they want to go because they typed it in on their phone on the way in. And that car has to dodge a pebble slightly, and it makes that small immediate move. The fact is, the person doesn't know or care about each individual specific piece. What they need to know is that it works, that it's been tested, that the system is validated enough that they're probably not going to die. And if they can show, like, I think right now the statistics are just, I don't remember off the top of my head, but robots are astronomically safer drivers than humans are. And it's unfortunate because at one point I drove Uber for a while. As an entrepreneur, I was broke for the most time of it because I spent all my time as an apprentice and didn't think about, like, hey, I should probably make money and then learn. Instead, I kind of just dove into the, not academic, but studies side of things, apprenticing actually. And normally it was an apprenticeship where working for free, working for dirt cheap, and absorbing as much information as possible and immediately applying it. But in this case here, yeah, it's something where it definitely takes a different part of the brain. Yeah, the Netherlands, they look fantastic. Let's see. Kylin it with Pichiu. Oh, I love you, brother. It's good to see you here, Stu. Hey, John. Ah, Gina, did you get this? Did you see the website sneak peek? We'll be launching, it looks like tomorrow. Um, yeah, like I saw the update earlier today. It appears to be on track. I'm sure during a live stream I'll see an update, and so I'll let you guys know live if it looks like we're still on track for tomorrow, if maybe it's going to be Wednesday. But at this point, we're talking about bits and bobs that are left. I'm stoked to get it out there because, especially with this brain dump of getting everything into the public. And of course, we'll be chopping it up and slicing it into pieces so that way it becomes more accessible and more viral and easier to share. But it's something where, yeah, the site is going to be dynamic as well. That way it can be a nice house for all this different content. We want to make it easy to search and query. And of course, being a big data company, we want to be able to make as many use case examples as possible. It's part of the things that we'll be discussing inside of the militia to find out, what is it, like, what kind of skills do people have? What kind of experience do they have? What kind of knowledge do they have? If maybe someone's aware of some type of problem that if they had certain information, they would be able to make an automated system that could produce better results. You know, something like a portfolio allocation bot that's able to determine based off of risk profiles, what types of assets might they want to buy. This would be a useful system, but it would require so much information. And what would they be quantifying all of that based off of? And are there any studies, or what studies are there that prove that that's probably correct? And how do we test it in a way that's ethical and in integrity? These are the types of questions that don't always have very simple answers. And these are the problems that we face on a daily basis. And so the objective is to be able to get out as much information as we can, analyze that for ourselves, because to be frank, we also don't know the depth of this information. To be frank, my mind is blown. I watched the previous live. I was watching at 3.5x, so I could blast through it really quickly. I was assessing what deeper information should I go into, what topics might I should add, and how can I improve the next time. So anyway, I say that because going through that, I could see that there really is a lot of ways that we can utilize this material. And once we have this structured out into documentation, into articles, into various different types of content pieces, I can see now how, yeah, for sure, we can have people having, I guess, more productive conversations, because we will need to work together as a community to figure all of this out. It's it's one of those, I chuckle because I see a lot of comments from people in other communities where they complain about, oh, well, this project isn't good because they're centralized and this project isn't centralized. And it's just one of those things that we're so early right now that we're still figuring this stuff out and building it. I'm going to keep on hyping Kusama because it's so understated just how brilliant and valuable it is to have this secondary chain. I know I was scratching my head for months trying to figure out, Gavin seems like a smart dude. Why did he copy and paste his own network? I don't get it. But now it makes a lot of sense because these types of systems we're talking about in live markets, which potentially are housing, managing, or responsible for the protection of billions and eventually hundreds of billions of dollars, it's important that it works properly and that we know how people are going to interact with whatever it might be, to see, are people going to take advantage of the system? Are people going to be breaking laws with this? Are we putting ourselves or other people in some type of danger? We've got to be able to ask these questions. And the fact is, if we're just a team, like, sure, we're less than a dozen now, and as we scale up, well, quite frankly, I'd like to see 100 plus full-time people by the end of, to be frank, I'm pretty bullish on Kylin, on what we're doing. It is because I've spent the last 6 months analyzing the big data markets as well as blockchain and figuring out what is the optimal pathway that we could take to grab as much market share and create as much quantifiable value as possible. Machine learning oracles is the solution. That's the fastest, best, most productive way that I've found thus far. And if someone has a faster horse, please drop it into the militia chat, because what we're building is a group of engineers and developers and designers and copywriters and editors and the types of people that has both creative and technical balance between, so that way we can actually get things built. We can collaborate and work together to make this happen. Okay, so let's go back in here. Yeah, dot season is going to be wild. It's I'm excited to find out what dot looks like when it really faces experiences mass adoption, because the stage that we're at is, it's still launch phase. And if we look, if history is any indication, it took a couple of years for Ethereum to go from launch to application deployments to mass, not even mass, but like just user adoption on those applications, enough to create a proof of concept and to generate the demand. And then we saw that exponential growth happen. But it's why the curves start off flat and then inevitably hockey stick on up for projects that offer actual value. Yes, thank you, Bull Sander. For sure, it's something where we do have opportunities available within the company. Yes, there are some full-time developer positions. The future that we're building of a multi-thousand person remote part-time army all over the world, we're not there yet. So as of right now, we do have some full-time positions available, and the militia is going to be the environment for anyone who wants to participate with Kylin. We will eventually have some type of incentive program for the militia. As of right now, I have no idea what the details of that would be, or how we would structure that and how we would build it, manage it. And quite frankly, we have priorities right now that we really have to nail first, namely the Pichiu Kusama launch, as well as building the UI for the marketplace. So that way non-developers and non-technical background people can experience and utilize the service we're building with Pichiu and then Kylin. So yeah, if you're looking to be participating in something, maybe you want to have some experience, build some experience to put onto your resume. Maybe you just want to help out because you like what we're doing. And if you've got a bag, yeah, it would might behoove to drop us a line and give us some pointers if you think that there's room for improvement. So yeah, it's something where I look forward to it. A little off topic, but do you know how Ethereum will plug into Dot so it can use you as an oracle? Yeah, so that's actually one of the things that's why we had stopped taking on new partners. I mean, what months ago? It's because most of the partners that we have, they're Ethereum-based projects. But the lowest hanging fruit available is to serve the Kusama partners first, because we have to go through an additional step to get onto ETH, and we don't have those relationships broken down yet. Though this is something we're in the militia, I'd like to be talking about strategy in terms of partnerships, discussing what kind of solutions could we build as a community to help our partners. How can, of course, obviously any community member that helps build a Oracle gets a chunk of the Oracle, which is going to be paying out to them indefinitely. So that's the main motivation of being able to be on the inside, because I know what got me into the Kylin cave, which was the first event that I attended with Kylin, and Dylan was speaking and was talking about the company, and he was just so casual and so authentic. It was clear he was out at brunch or something, and seeing the way he just interacted and talked with people, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And anyway, there was something where I forgot where I was going with that story. So whoopsies, that's embarrassing. But to make it to where on Dot, what needs to happen is we need to work together to see which partnerships can we pursue, who should we go after, and what can we build for them. Because the challenge that we face is most partners, they're not data specialists. They don't know what data types they have or what specific pipeline steps they need. A data engineer would know those details. And where we are right now is there's a bit of a knowledge gap or a chasm between us, because we need to have either structured data or a structured system to get the data, to really be able to build out a proper Oracle or more advanced solutions like a Gen2. For them, though, they probably are working with other things, busy on whatever it is that they're doing, and ideally staying focused on their zone of genius, because there are thousands of things that we need to have developed and built in the blockchain ecosystem. And the more that our friends out there building the hundreds and hundreds of other active projects, well, the better off all of us will be, because eventually it's going to be an interconnected web of services that no one will know what's underneath it, because it's just going to be the nerdy, gory bits that people don't really care about. In this case here, our partners, they're focused on whatever specific challenge and problem that they're solving with their application or network. And usually that's not data pipeline related. So what we need to be able to do is balance our technical resources of people that understand the technical side of data and can talk with our partners as an ambassador, to be able to help guide them on understanding not only what do they have in terms of the type of data they may have available, but usually the layer that someone from the community would be an expert at, because anybody who's taking the time to watch videos like this, they're probably going to know a little bit more about big data in the blockchain industry than most. And so they'll probably be able to, using our education systems, and I'm sure our writers will put together amazing training systems and documentations and worksheets. And we've got a strategy on how to onboard as many citizen substrate developers as possible, not just for ourselves, but for the Polkadot ecosystem as a whole, because again, it takes all of us. So it's something where anybody who's looking to participate in something like that, whether that's I know for myself, I wanted to learn to code. And so I started to learn Python. So that way I can get to the point of building data science applications, and was going to transition into Rust. At the stage I'm at, I've gotten a little bit busy with the whole blockchain executive thing. And so I'm going to be aping development studies immediately after January, which I think my workload's going to go up like this, and then I can finally balance it out because, well, my current schedule is not very sustainable. Let's just say that. But yes, for anybody who is looking forward to being able to test their skills, learn something new, be a part of something exciting, or perhaps you just want to build your track record or resume. It's an exciting opportunity to be able to become a blockchain developer. There's some really, really big opportunities. And while the salaries don't start off fat when you're first beginning, the growth curve is really, really quick. I mean, typically we break things down quarter by quarter as opposed to annual assessments because that's how fast blockchain moves. But the way to start out is, you don't just dive right in, dip your toe in the water, hang out with us, see how we make decisions, see how we work together. And it's something where if you have insights, knowledge, ideas, rebuttals, I mean, we would value your insights and your opinion. And this is a place that being decision scientists, at least citizen decision scientists, it's something that we're open to different ideas, so long as, of course, they're respectful. I mean, we don't want to be rude to each other. So yeah, reach out to in the group if that sounds interesting or fun. And yeah, once you're in there, that's where you get to see how we talk about where the big monetary value from data comes from. And I'll go deeper into that. But for anyone who hasn't seen it already, I did release the script for the Y Kylin presentation. And Bullsand, if it's not already posted somewhere, would you drop that in the chat? This script really breaks down all of those details in a much more humanized way than I could just talk off the cusp. That was probably a collective week's worth of attention to go back to and edit and refine and finally turn into that. Let's see. Oh, so the plugs will go through a bridge, and we have to build a bridge to go through that. Sorry, let me finish answering the question. DeData warehouse and Gen2 oracles. What's the difference in a nutshell? Yeah, so we could describe the difference as the DeData warehouse is, we could say, synonymous with a traditional retail warehouse if we're looking at the supply chain logistics metaphor. If that's the case, then in this case, the Gen2 Oracle would be the freight ship that's sending the goods from point A to point B. So in this case here, an Oracle's job, to go one layer deeper, the Oracle's job is to get information from point A to point B. Think about it like the transportation layer of the supply chain. And a Gen2 Oracle is it's built on top of Gen 1s, where a Gen 1 gets you from point A to point B. A Gen 2 adds more value to the data that was provided. So instead of saying, hey, here's the price of Bitcoin, it says, hey, Bitcoin did something weird, you should probably sell. Or, oh, looks like Bitcoin is oversold, you should probably buy. And to have a quantifiable, objective, audited and decentralized algorithm that's able to determine whatever metrics it's objectively providing from the algorithms, which is validated on chain, so you can even determine how the algorithmic decisions were made. And well, it just makes it to where you have a significant amount of value creation for they're not necessarily going to be cheap, and I don't know what the cost will be because, again, we still have to figure out a lot of the details, and that's what the MVP that we're building is for, so we can determine these things. But it's something where it makes it to that the amount of relative value that can be created is exponentially more. A DeData warehouse, going one layer of abstraction deeper than the supply chain example, it's to be able to have it so that if you upload a bunch of information to Google Drive, that's being stored in a structured format. But there's also your costs are going to be much, much higher. If you want to drop 100 terabytes of footage on a Google Drive, that's going to cost you a pretty penny, and it's difficult to programmatically interact with it. You can, it's just a bit more work. On the other hand, if you put that into a data warehouse, it's going to structure and organize that data in a format that's probably going to require a command line or at least a low code, no code solution. At the same point, though, you'll be able to do more with that data in terms of it'll be easier to run machine learning processes on top of it, easier to distribute across whatever dashboards or website reporting systems that they might be contingent upon, whatever automations might be relying on these systems. A DData warehouse is something that's what a data warehouse does. A decentralized data warehouse is something where you actually own that piece. No one can take it away from you. No one can lock you out. There'll be rules built into there, of course. We don't want people hacking it all the time. That's not going to be a safe environment. But it's something where so long as you are not doing anything wrong, then yeah, sure, it's you can stay there indefinitely. No one that allows you to be there, it doesn't. It's kind of like Uniswap. It doesn't geo-lock where a person's is at because it's open to everyone. Maybe it does geo-lock, but the point is it doesn't discriminate on who's in there or what it is that's happening. A decentralized data warehouse means you have control, you have power. It's your data. And on top of that, you can get paid on that data. You can generate value because you're by providing that on a marketplace. If you elect to, then you're able to help other people make even more value. So it's something that a centralized data warehouse, that'd be very difficult to do because if you have an income stream that's now dependent on a third party, sure, platform as a service companies can proven that works, but there's also a pretty parasitic relationship that unfortunately has an incentive model of taking as much as possible from the contractor. In the case here, what we're seeing, we need to constantly get it to where we're educating the community on here's opportunities to make a whack ton of tokens from providing this kind of solution. Here's a specific problem that like 5 projects are facing, and here's what we think a good solution would be. If anyone would like to put together a team, well, we're kickstarting a bounty for the build out of this type of Oracle. And I don't know, imagine that you built the equivalent of the Chainlink Bitcoin ETH price feeding Oracle way back in the day on Uniswap. Well, you'd be really freaking stoked right now because a heck of a lot of people are looking at the Bitcoin ETH pair. It's one of those situations where the decentralized data warehouse allows for a person to have a more active role in ownership. It makes it to where, from an innovation standpoint, we're likely to be growing faster than the centralized firm, which is going to have a more bureaucratic system. While in decentralization, it's a bunch of nodes, individual people, hyper focused on what they want to do. So instead of having a whole corporate infrastructure, the top-down approach that, again, bottlenecked at the top, it makes it to where it's the other way around. A whole massive group of people decide to focus on specific stuff, and they create more and more and more specialized solutions until, well, we hit the singularity of super general artificial intelligence. But we are probably a long ways away from there. And even when we do, I'm actually optimistic of what the future looks like. Now that I've had a chance to dive deep into the guts and bones of artificial intelligence, I can see that it's on the path that we're currently on right now, with how accessible data science is becoming. I'm very confident in our species that we'll work together as a human people to stand up against any global catastrophic event that may occur, like a rogue AI. Wow, that got off topic. You see, it's all right, John. We're in a similar boat. Will the upgraded site have blog feature to help replace Medium? So yeah, we will be putting a pretty awesome blog on there. It's something that the blog, it's probably step 4 or 5 though. So I would expect that closer to February, probably, maybe as soon as mid to late January. Gina. Yeah, so as of right now, Gina, the best bet is hang out in the militia with us. If there's some kind of project, if you want to hop in and offer some insights, perhaps there, what we're wanting to do is create a place where we can get to know each other, find out what works. We don't have part-time jobs available right now. If you were full-time, then I'd say absolutely, especially if you have substrate experience. At the same time, though, what we're building is the moment we have Pichiu launched, we're able to access first all of the projects on Kusama immediately. Next, we'll build a bridge, probably work with one of our, one of our ecosystem associates, and just make some friends in the community, and build something on Moon River or something like that, and then start to connect with the ETH projects. Someone has to build all of those, and whoever does gets the largest share of those query fees indefinitely. So it's something where the part-time work that's available will probably be in the future. I mean, will probably be in the form of bounties, where when we kickstart these bounties, that's going to be an amount of tokens that we put in. It'll crowdsource another chunk of tokens, and then that's going to be distributed across the various milestones, making sure that, unlike a Kickstarter situation where all the money goes to them up front, well, the only reason is because they can't track what's happening. But because this is blockchain and we are a data pipeline data, big data company, we can take a look at the steps and validate that someone has completed milestone A, B, C, D, and E, whatever those might be. At which point, then it allows for people to decide, well, how intensive of a bounty do they want to participate in? Maybe somebody has about 20 hours a week, so they decide to take on one pretty light bounty. I'm a bit of a degenerate, and so I would probably find the most difficult, juiciest, but biggest likely opportunity bounty I could, and I'd probably take on two others at the same time, because it is something where it depends on a person's style, and those types of opportunities will be available. I could say on top of that, well, as we expand too, it'll be decided inside of the militia, and we'll figure out at what stage does it make sense to be looking at more official part-time teammates. Hope that helps. That's cool. Gaming developer. Still awesome to have that experience. When do I think 100 devs? I mean, I'd like to see 100 devs next year. Obviously, I can't guarantee that. I'm not telling you that that's my expectation. But if I'm bullish and the way that I'm setting things up, I do my best to sandbag my expectations. So yeah, with that in mind, I do believe it's probable that we could hit 100 developers. There's a heck of a lot we have to do, because as an example, when we say we've gone from 0 to 1, meaning we've got the proof of concept out, we've shown that we can put data on chain and have it to where fees are paid out upon being queried. And then on top of that, we now have at least the design layout for the Gen 2 machine learning oracles. And there's just so many other cool things that need to be built over the course of the next 3 to 8 years, depending on what a person considers as, having fully built out what we're doing. But so it's something that, when I look at the amount of developers it'd likely be, to get to the full mass adoption level where we are looking at 1,000 type partners like where Chainlink is at right now, there's probably hundreds of employees. It'll be different because I don't think it'll all be part-time. I mean, full-time. I think we'll have a lot of part-time at that point. But I'd say within this next year, 100 we can do, especially being successful with this initiative, because it starts with the community. And to be frank, if we look at the company, 90% of both companies, so my own company, the consultancy, as well as Kylin, it's only one person I can think of. So 85 to 90, call it, percent of people, they're from the community. So the faster we can grow it, the better we can break information down, the better we can understand how to be able to manage and govern ourselves for the fastest growth possible. That's going to be what will get us there. What's the long-term price prediction for Kylin? Define long-term. And price predictions, it's something that it would be inappropriate for me to say a random price. It'd have a high probability of misleading people, and I wouldn't have any hard evidence to be able to substantiate any number that I put up with. What I can do, though, and then on the same track of what we specialize in as a company, is to describe the decision-making pipeline that I would use to estimate what the price could be, based upon whatever variable of time you decide you want to estimate for. It would be a function between the network volume of traffic that's happening on our platform. So that's going to be the amount of data that's running through it. Now, a data point that I'd be looking at as well is going to be community growth and taking a look at how are we growing in terms of both social media and on-chain token holder metrics. From there, I would extrapolate that with comparing, well, what other projects are doing what we're doing and has a likelihood to be able to I guess, kind of shadow us. And it's something where that becomes a bit challenging because we've intentionally built a system that's made to where we partner with everybody. So we don't really have competition because we help any project make more money. It's a really easy sell. And so what is the calculation if you add up a logarithmic increase in the amount of network traffic as the volume increases? When you look at an expanding a community that expands at an exponential rate, and then that productionalizes as many people who are looking to be able to participate in this type of growth. And then we layer on the whatever determination of how much user adoption you think will occur at the time period you're considering. So is it right now the market cap of the industry is like 2.2 trillion or something. So is it a 2.2 trillion size market cap or a 22 trillion size market cap? Depending on how many users are in the network, is going to create a massive difference in the network effect. The way I look at it is if we had a chance to be able to not even be on the ground floor of Facebook, if we had a chance to build a piece of the, I don't know, the algorithm that Google used for 10 years straight for their search systems. And if every single time anybody made a Google search, a fraction of a penny was deposited into my account, that would be a pretty awesome situation. And that's what we're building at Kylin. It's something where it's not quite as simple as Google. And of course, as industries innovate, it's not the same solutions that people bring up. But it is something where if we look at the fundamentals of what is it that we're building, it's something that machine learning, while for the technical community is a beaten horse. I mean, people have been talking and hyping up data science, machine learning, and AI for decades. And it's something where, hilariously, it's only recently that people have kind of become toned down to the power of machine learning. Right as we're at the cusp, as it appears, of when the industry is about to go absolutely parabolic, because it's just competition, supply and demand. Right now, companies, and I can have a whole section that, man, this may not be 8 hours. This may be a series. Oh my God, how many hours would it take to be able to get all of this out of my brain? Well, I guess we'll find out together, everybody. So it's something where, crap, what was I saying? So yeah, it's something where looking at the price, there we go, and how we would estimate that and what the value of building a system that is able to monetize basically any type of data. And if it's on chain, then it's available to be looked at. And so what insights could be drawn from data on chain? And as we create systems that makes it easier to extract insights on chain, what cool things can we do with that? And what can be built on top of that? It applies to every single industry: medical, agriculture, transportation, metaverse, obviously DeFi, and literally anything that has computers or any type of technology involved would benefit from some type of data optimization. So it's, I don't know the price. At the same time, I would estimate that the better we're able to make a solid plan around the variables that we can control, the more likely we have a shot of reaching those modern valuations of big data companies. Because the valuation multipliers of blockchain projects is way, way higher than traditional equities. And that gap will only widen as we continue to have higher adoption. Yeah, so as far as the, I see you're asking about like if the team holds a lot of the coins and we can dump them when we want to. So I'm laughing because it's one, not typically the team that's dumping in these situations. we work all the time, and most people in like that are working for a blockchain project, they don't have the time to trade. They buy, they hold, they keep stacking, and they keep working, because when they're able to convert time and effort into some type of creation, it's like the equivalent of in real estate owning a rental house. Um, they're able to create assets, so they want as much of it held as possible. And then relatively speaking, there's single digit, maybe double digit numbers of team members, but there could be hundreds of whales. And in our case, I actually don't know our whale numbers on the top of my head. And again, trading is not the thing that I'm doing right now. Though I personally do actually have a big interest in trading. So it's why I practice openly talking about these conversations, because I don't think they should be shrugged off. I think it's valuable and reasonable that people are going to have questions about the potential financial output of it. And I think that there should be a little bit more discussion about not just blindly telling people, yeah, this thing is going to go to the moon and be this price on this date. What if instead we took the time to at least walk through one way that one could guess what things might be? In this case here, when it comes down to dumping and the risk that a project has, when we're putting together, excuse me, when we're putting together risk models to determine how we might value an asset. Looks like my voice is getting tired. That'll be interesting over the next couple hours. But whenever we are looking at the risk profiles of valuing a blockchain asset, it's something where, while yes, the distribution of tokens is super important, but it's really the fundamentals of the project. Because the fact is, when you're talking about a micro cap or small cap project, any industry, it could be DeFi, it could be data, it could be metaverse, it could be gaming, any micro cap project, that is the most volatile asset class that exists. It doesn't get more volatile. There's going to be super high highs and super low lows, and most of them are going to fail. So it's something where, when making a decision on where would someone potentially put their money, while yes, it's completely reasonable to be looking at the where are the tokens at and what's the probability a dump could occur. But in my opinion, and what I do, so this is not a suggestion, it's just when we as a team are looking at what kind of mathematical models might be valuable that we could then make an oracle around and have more queries running on the Kylin network and Pichiu networks. But the point is that the things that we see are typically, if someone is dumping, that's an opportunity to buy. If we're taking the time to invest in something, we want more of it. So if the price goes down, then go shopping. It's on a discount. If you've lost conviction in what the company is doing, maybe you've lost conviction in the team, maybe you've lost conviction in the market as a whole, then those are valid reasons to potentially be exiting a project. But as old school as it might be, I like Buffett's approach, which is the best type of asset is one that never has to be sold. In this case, it's something where being able to have a project that you can commit to in the long term. It's why, for myself, as I've gone through this journey of learning more about blockchain, I was this dude that was all over the place, just chasing pumps, trying to find the next 10, 20x gain. And then as I started to learn from people who actually have decades of trading and investing experience, and I've been working in blockchain for years, studying and analyzing the markets, and I see that they don't do that. Typically, they have their categories that they know, they go an inch wide and a mile deep. So that way they know when to layer in and they know when to layer out. So I say this because there are risks out there. There are people that can dump. And yeah, look at the market right now. Are you telling me that with double digit inflation across the world, that everything's going to be staying? It's there's some tough, turbulent winds ahead for all markets for the rest of this next year. And at a point, blockchain will end up being more likely than not a massive victor. And at this stage of the equation, at this stage of the journey, the question really that I would be encouraging people to ask is, well, what are projects going to look like when things come back? Because if a person believes that money is going to continue to flow off chain and on chain, and personally, $2 trillion is enough validation to me, then that means that the question is, what assets do we think is going to provide the most value? From there, that's the best way to look at where things should really go. So in that manner, if there's a temporary downturn, sounds like an opportunity. And if things pump a whole lot, that's validation that things are still moving in the right direction. But the price is a lagging indicator. The even the wallet holder metrics, it is lagging. And yeah, when it comes to dumps, it's from what I've seen, what people are typically referring to are legitimate rug pulls where people lie about what something is, mislead an entire community of people, and steal everything. That's not what happens in quality projects. And more often than not, with a little bit of digging, a person can find what project is probably real and what's not. Do you see anybody's face? I'm not saying that anonymous projects don't work, but from a risk perspective, there's not less risk in anonymous projects. Is the thesis reasonable? Is it backed up? Because if not, then it's probably not going to go anywhere. You know, does it look like it has a strong team? Someone's going to have to figure out a lot of tough problems on any blockchain. And all of us have got, it doesn't matter what industry it is, DeFi, metaverse, NFTs, all of it. It's important to look at what people are going to be making decisions. And when things get tough, what's going to happen? Because that's another variable that, anyways, talking about valuation valuation models is actually a topic that I do have on the list, because it's one of those use case examples that there is so much opportunity in. And yeah, it's kind of stuff that we can teach to get more realistic stuff here out there. Thank you, Gina. You're so kind. Boston Dynamics. You know, Stu, I totally want to have an AI avatar though, because like as I because my intention is, and what I'm building, I have a consultancy. We've been doing marketing and digital advertising specifically for half a decade, and I want to transition that into blockchain because, well, I work full time, I work overtime in blockchain. So if I'm going to be a proper board to my chairman of my company, then I need to offer some value that's relevant. But it'll end up being probably hundreds of moving pieces. And I obviously can't be the face of all of them, and there's only 24 hours in a day. And so I'll just make it to where at some point, I'll take the transcripts of everything that's out there, train an AI with that, and tune it to see how well it's able to create content like myself. And with the graphics of things like Unreal Engine 5, it's extraordinarily impressive how detailed these avatars can become. And I'm guessing in the future, there's going to be a lot more avatar situations as well. Take a look at the percentage of number of hours that people spent on social media in 2004, let's say 2005, and compare that to the average person in 2021. It would have been seem excessive and obnoxious to spend as much time on digital technology as we do right now 20 years ago. But nowadays, it's the standard, the norm, and expected. And it's actually weird when someone's not staring at their phone all day. On the other hand, if we project 10 years probably in the future, because it's an accelerating curve. So if it took 20 years for the last bump, it's probably going to be 10 for the next. And that means in 10 years, we're likely looking at a pretty metaverse dominant world. It is why, as much as I love to see every blockchain person making cracks at Facebook as often as possible, Meta, it makes it to where it is the future, though. It is where things are going. So avatars and AI bots, it's the type of stuff that I go into that detail because the kind of things that we can help build at Kylin. So sure, we're not the video game or the metaverse project or the sexy part that people look for. But that stuff has marketplaces. And those marketplaces have people buying and selling things. And there's trends behind what people buy and sell. And if you buy properly and sell properly, you can make a lot of money. But if you don't, you can lose a lot of money, which means there's a financial incentive to have a competitive edge. So if there's an incentive for an edge, that means somebody is going to be able to be willing to pay for that. And we're building the marketplace where one can go and acquire those services. So within the metaverse space, with how much capital there is and just how gnarly competitive. I'm kind of excited for the metaverse wars to see who stands out on top, who's going to be the highest. I mean, we're going to be working with everybody, so we get a front row seat. But it's going to be exciting to see where the future goes and how we interact with it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce. I think it's Vietnamese characters, but Mr. Win. 10 billion market cap. 10B stands for 10 billion. MC for market cap. And the idea is to discuss what would it take to bring us to a $10 billion market cap? What would that look like? Well, as where we are right now, I mean, we've got a year's worth of data to look at, and we can see what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we do moving forward. And of course, anybody who's taking the time out of their day to watch something like this probably wants to see something happen with Kylin. And the idea here is to for us to share as leadership, for myself, I should say, to share as a leader of the company, what exactly is it that we're doing? How are we thinking about things? What's the value that we see? And what are the missing pieces that we really need to solve to be able to get to where we want to go? There's been a critical challenge of being able to communicate information effectively without overwhelming people, but while also supplying the enough information for people to go deep when they need to. And we can go from the extremes of tweeting, making a tweet 3 to 5 times a week to remind people that we exist, all the way to writing a 38-page proposal, breaking down every detail of what a site could and should include, and the process of how it should be developed over time and how it should be managed and maintained for maximum conversions. There's a wide range between how detailed one may get into it, but let me keep going. All right, so everybody, I am going to take a quick break because I actually ordered some Chinese food and I'm very hungry. And I realize that this is going to be quite a while. So we're definitely inching through these layers, and I've seen multiple messages come in from our creative team that they found a lot of valuable pieces. So we're going to keep chipping away. Hope you enjoy the ride and the experience of everything that you're seeing. I'm not going to turn off the live stream. I'm just going to leave it going because I kind of just want to have a super long video on here and not like part 2, part 5, part 27. Like that's just going to become excessive, and our team will clip out the end. So yeah, be right back. I realize I'm still here. That's so funny. All right. And hello, hello. We are live again. All right. So I'm just going to go send a quick message. So what I'm going to do is go back to that list. And actually, you know what? I was just reading through the militia chat, and let me see where this is. There's a couple of good discussion points that we could probably make some content for. Excuse me. I forgot to swallow. I mean, I forgot to chew and ended up getting a piece of rice stuck right in the middle. But it sounds like there's a frog in my throat. That's what it is. Yeah, so I see. Okay, so yeah, that's what it was. Talking about the website and what's going on with the timing for it and why it's not out sooner. And and that does actually lead towards a pretty big part of why, you know, why things haven't happened as fast as we want. It's figuring out an operational system where, like I said, kind of tried to describe earlier as the left being able to communicate with the right. And in a situation like the direction that we're going, being able to put together not just a pretty site, which quite frankly can be made in just a couple of days and for super duper cheap, but what's been a process is figuring out what is the not just first step that we can take, but where should we be going that has the highest likelihood of being able to produce the results we're looking for, to convert somebody, to educate somebody, to encourage and inspire someone to want to dive deeper into understanding big data and blockchain solutions with what we're doing at Kylin, and to be a part of the monetary value that this can produce. It's something that we had to figure out a way to describe that, a messaging, an angle that would stick with as many people as possible. And while, yes, we could see that we could just take the words that are on the current site, make something a little bit better, that wouldn't produce a disproportionate increase in value. And yes, we could add on little pieces. And quite frankly, looking back, knowing how much room for optimization we had in our decision-making pipelines, it's something where that would have been the better option. I'm just used to a fast, rapid decision-making environment that is based mostly off of a end picture result and being able to kind of grapple from, okay, where do we want to go to? Where are we now? And what will it take to get there? Because if we can break that down, then we know that the step that we're taking is likely to get us in the right direction. As one of the gentlemen who I had a great pleasure to learn from, he was a friend of my late mentor, Bernie. He wrote a book called The Trajectory Code. I'm drawing a blank on his name. My goodness, I see his face. Anyways, the guy who wrote The Trajectory Code. Essentially, what this book is about is, in business, you may want to be going, here to a certain point, and you might feel like you're moving in the right direction. And the reality is, if your trajectory is off, you're probably not going to get where you want to go. In fact, it might look like you're going in the right direction, but you're going to have to at some point pivot closer. But sometimes people even get that trajectory off and just end up, again, still getting off in the wrong place. To be able to make sure that we have a clear understanding of where is it that we're going and what is likely to be needed in order to get there, we, as a team, we really were racking our minds for quite some time on, well, what does that overall messaging look like? What kind of content are we going to pair with this? What type of marketing campaigns will we be involved with? A website that's built to be optimized for pay-per-click, or PPC, as we call it in the industry, advertising, that's going to be a different design, different structure, and different styling than what's going to be happening with one that's based mostly off of organic. And then even within organic, it depends on what type of organic. Are they looking for some type of incentive, like a giveaway or an email list type situation? Or is it a bit more active and there's some type of an expectation that people have? It's something where the the way that one designs the user experience, the content flow, and the overall build out process for something. When I looked at Kylin and understood that we're working on building a multi-billion dollar and pretty soon deca-billion dollar infrastructure that is going to scale within likely the next couple of years, at least that's what I'm shooting for. And I think it's reasonable. And then until evidence suggests otherwise, we're going to keep on grinding in its direction. It just made sense for me to look at it from the perspective of not what's better than our current site, but instead, what's going to be the type of site that a $10 billion project would be working with, would be doing. And being able to put that together, to design that, to get the right styling, not just the right vision and direction, but to be able to go through round after round after round of revisions, and for the creative team to have to think outside of the box of how to visualize and describe and animate, and the writers to figure out how to describe in a terse, concise way. I mean, I'm here for 4+ hours, having only scratched the surface. And now that 8 hour expectation I had, I think instead I'm going to end up drooling on myself at some point during this live stream. And then I'm just going to have to chunk it down and just keep on knocking out a few hours a day until we're able to get a, well, I'd like to get everything out. I was going to say an effective amount or a substantial amount, but the fact is, no, I want to get all of everything that is going on with what's, with what is obviously with what makes sense to share as like the opportunities and challenges that are going on as a company. It's just in line with the spirit of decentralization and community collaboration, because 1,000 is going to be able to spot a lot more than what 10 would be able to do. And there's been enough studies at this point that I've seen. Someone had asked earlier, what's a channel that inspires me? Real Vision Finance is another one. I love what those gentlemen are doing. And they had a segment that went into this where they were describing how they have their own fund that they're transparent enough to show how they're investing and like proportionally what projects they're in. But then they created a community fund and they put an amount of money in there, somewhere in the multiple 5 figures or maybe even low 6-figure range. And they were testing to see if the community had a completely decentralized control of this fund. And they had their own Discord group or something, and they were in there communicating about which assets they should acquire and which should they buy, which should they sell, what proportion, what percentages should they have of different types of things. And the entries and exits that they made were so random and strange and just not there's not an algorithm or necessarily even a logic behind it. But because there are so many hundreds and thousands plus people that were staring at this every single day, it made it to where if there was something really going on, somebody would be loud enough to be able to get other people's attention, or people would work together and create something and show like, hey, this is why this is a better move, or we need to get out here, we need to get in there. And the percentage gain that they're getting ended up being higher than the team of professional, each with decades of experience, long seasoned investors and traders. And that's amazing. That's really cool. Yet, if I think about at least the fundamentals I've observed of humans, it's that we're a very capable and adaptable bunch. I mean, the way that humans are able to live everywhere from the bone dry deserts of the Sahara all the way up to the freezing tundras of like Norilsk, Russia or something, in the middle of the Amazon rainforest or the Congo, the Congo Basin. It's something where humans are very adaptable and innovative creatures we are. And to be able to determine how can we apply that, how can we use that for our own project? Well, it's almost an insanity to not consider how can we work together. So I say this because in order to build the site that makes sense, that would have the highest chance of getting us to where we really want to go, we had to focus on that. And, I don't really know how to say this without dancing around it, so I'll just be direct. It is also our organizational systems, they weren't very organized. So we've actually made two attempts at making the site. The first attempt, we were so delayed, and when we were actually able to get consensus and take action on the consensus, that we had missed the opportunity for the talent that we needed. So then we had to source, and then we decided to change a whole bunch of things. Pichiu popped up into existence. That was an experience that took some time. And then, well, it's been a lot of transformations and changes. So the same people that are supposed to be building the site, well, their attention was reallocated towards the task at hand. And many of these tasks were vital. And in fact, unfortunately, I would say it's possible we would have lost some of the most important leaders at certain points in the last couple of months if it wasn't for the relentless action of our team. Because I know that there's no way that I could have done this by myself. It's there's more than half a dozen people in the background making this happen. So whenever it comes down to what is it that's happening with the site, it's something where it's, yes, a website, absolutely, and for sure. But really, what it is the first step of how to be able to have an ecosystem to support a $10 billion market cap company, a project that is really seen as a true blue chip. And while, yes, we can start off with something so-so, and the argument can be made, we can iterate as we go, but then the direction is all over the place. When going back to the trajectory code, it can look like you're on the right track, but easily be going a different way. Now we have what appears to be an excellent direction. And thus far, as much as we look for it, there's not a lot of negative feedback on the concept of Gen2 Oracles. And I've talked to a lot of project owners and leads and founders that when they hear the types of insights that they could access, low code and even no code way, it makes people drool, because it means that is so much that they get to offload, that their team doesn't have to worry about. And when, as a community, we build out the systems that protects and secures whatever marketplace and applications and features we build into this environment, it makes it to where they can focus on their zone of genius. So they can really double down, and they can go a mile wide in whatever solution it is that they provide for whatever ecosystem that they're interacting with. And so when we looked at, okay, well, what does that look like? How do we visualize that? And when we make content, to consider, well, what type of content are we making, and how does that look like? And if we're looking to get a conversion, meaning we want someone to take some type of an action, what is that conversion event, and what elements and touch points can we build into this site that will allow us to be able to get closer to that conversion event? What tracking is going to be involved in there, and how are we going to monitor where everything goes? If I'm frank with it, though, the biggest challenge is that we had to put the project on pause for a significant amount of the last couple of months. And that was something that, well, as the guy who wrote the 38-page document for the website that we're currently building, I'm absolutely flooding with enthusiasm to get everything to happen as fast as possible. But it was realistically about 3.5 weeks ago-ish that we were able to fully double down on the website. And even then, that was right whenever I went to Miami for the blockchain conference, was then in Ohio to bring the team together and to go over that high level strategy, and then was bouncing around the stage for a bit before coming back here. So weird time where it's what we mean by we found difficulty in communicating everything that's happening, because so much of this has been abstract and intangible. But now we've got a pretty good system, and it may not look like much as of right now in terms of the content that's coming out. But some fun facts as of the moment: we've increased our token holder volume by about 10%, our YouTube following by about 12.5%, and our Twitter following by 15% since we've started this content creation system. We still haven't finished training the newest round of folks that have joined our team, and we still have an additional round of folks that are likely going to be onboarded closer to January. Most of the people that we wanted to hire, they already got gigs for the holidays, because the holidays is the absolute busiest, craziest time for any marketer. So finding quality talent at an acceptable price in a last minute situation is an interesting process. It's why it's so important that we decouple marketing from what we do at Kylin from an engineering side, because it's something where as someone who's led, ran, and coached digital agencies for years, sure, I can oversee that and make sure it's going in the direction it's supposed to because one, I'm the leader of the company. So I can stand behind the things that I say are going to happen. But two, I know how to cut every single unnecessary thing out so we can focus on the result, on the impact, on the highest probability way to make this happen. And then on top of that, I can dedicate my primary full focus on the full action that needs to be taken to get Kylin to where it is. So when it comes down to why did this site not come out sooner? Because we realized real quickly that we need a better operational system. But then when it came to building the operational system, we realized we don't have consensus about how we're making decisions or even what direction we're going. And so there's a whole lot of pivots and a whole lot of transitions. And I know this is a bit of a gory backstory, kind of maybe seems like a bunch of unnecessary detail, but the idea behind this brain dump session is to be able to really have something of a repository that we can access and break down and understand all the underlying pieces and moving bits and bobs within the Kylin ecosystem. So that way, then we can show people what type of opportunities are available. Because it's something where, as of right now, for anyone who's a designer, we're going to have some pretty cool design challenges where we want to see who finds the most creative way to describe something, or maybe it's we haven't figured out the details yet, but we're going to make it to where there's community events that we can do. Same thing with development. We've got lots of little features that we think would be awesome to put in, and this is an opportunity to stamp your name on something that eventually many millions of people may be seeing. And most importantly, that as we grow as a community, you can leave your mark on what's being made here. Now, obviously, we'll get to the point that we have like NFTs and all sorts of other kind of tokenized value over the stuff that we're doing. We're not quite there yet. At the same time, though, it's goodness. Let me just yeah, I think that's enough about the website pieces. The thing is, I was about to dive into a different subject, which is what exactly is modern marketing, Web3 marketing I keep referring to, and why the heck did it take us so long to put together this full line, this full strategy? And well, I realized that that would be an entire deep dive in itself, above and beyond the website piece. So I think we'll pause there and then let the militia, add up any other major questions that comes up. We'll just have to figure out a way to get them all in one place, because if they're scattered between a bunch of conversation, I wouldn't be able to read it, especially on a live stream where I forget anything whenever I look away and read or get nervous. All right, so just gonna take a quick look. Sweet, chats are chill. So next, what I'm going to do is pull up my list and let's just start knocking these out. Yes, I mean, I probably should have put this in the very bottom of my scroll. I realized that I probably should have watched more live streamers before just hopping on and live streaming. I haven't spent very much time on Twitch. And quite frankly, the only reason we're not streaming to Twitch as well right now is because I haven't taken the time to dive into like I've made some attempts to figure out how to stream to both from Zoom, but I didn't find it quick enough to substantiate spending more time into, especially since until now I wasn't on solid ground enough to be really able to sustain constant lives. They're not going to be like this. This is just like that huge upcurve swing when I'm just brain dumping as much as possible, because once it's laid out into the ether and we can start categorizing this different directives and topics and just categories of information. And then we can determine the different priority levels behind each of them based off of some type of quantifiable value. And they have creative ways to expand upon the subjects that matter most to the people that we're looking to connect with. It's something where kind of like data, it starts off quite raw, and it may not look like what it's eventually going to come out like. But in this case here, it's something where we're seeing that this gives us the initial resources that we need to build what we think will be something truly awesome. And it's shouted as well to the community at large for, I mean, your voices are heard, and for taking the time out of your day to be able to communicate and to share. It's something where, of course, we ask that people are respectful. And if someone asks a question and you're given an answer, asking the same question 10 more times, it's maybe not the nicest thing. A lot of times people don't have all the information. And even as a project lead, I can say that I don't know everything. And most other project leads I know, they also don't know everything. And this is a challenging space. What we're doing is, well, we're trying something a little bit different to see if perhaps we can overcome some of these challenges that almost all blockchain projects face at some point. And at some tipping point of transformational change, I'm sure that our partners will coach us and mentor us along the way as we nurture relationships with more people in the space, and as our community develops and also learns more, to be able to help to guide us in the right track. While of course we're leading and taking action on the front lines, it's something where we desperately need that intel and feedback to be able to ensure that we're on the best possible track. So yeah, one of the things that looks like I kind of brought up already was DAOs inside and out structure wise. So I wanted to take a moment where this will be a kind of a scratching just the surface of it, because I personally have a lot more to learn about this space before I can really share too much from a fully educated standpoint. So I'm going to share what I can stand behind. And that is that a decentralized autonomous organization, it's something that is still at that stage of innovation that there's not a lot of data about them. A traditional corporate structure, we've got hundreds of years of data to look at, and even market data to be able to determine certain trends within a standard top-down corporate infrastructure. But an environment that is really led by the people. I think if we abstract it away from blockchain for a moment and consider something almost like Wikipedia, where it's mostly volunteers, and the volunteers will vote for employees to work there, and the system is just set up in a way that it's able to sustain itself through the value that it produces. And they did that in Web 2. I mean, my goodness, to pull off a Web 3 feat in Web 2, the more I learn about decentralization, got a little bit Texan for a moment, decentralization. But the more that we learn about decentralization and the deeper that I go into it, the more I realize just how powerful of an impact it's going to make whenever, just like the example I shared about Real Vision Finance and the way that the collective, the community, leading with their own self-governed manners, was able to outperform the professionals. And there's likely going to be a similar effect in data, especially because the competitive edge in data is typically going to be either the actual putting the data together in an efficient and affordable way, because one person has a really inefficient algorithm, maybe something costs $10,000, but somebody else, they may have found a way to do it way, way more effectively, so they can charge $1,000. So if that guy is charging 10K more and this girl is charging a tenth less, she's probably going to get more business. So I mean, let's just compare Ethereum gas fees to Polkadot. If they can do the same thing with the same opportunity, same volume, and there's no difference in user experience, people are probably going to want to go where it's 10 to 100 times less. Similar concept when we take a look at the efficiency of organizational structures. It's something that, as of right now, the traditional Web 2, again, pyramid type corporate structure we are also accustomed to, it just doesn't scale very well. If you want to hire 10,000 people in a week, that would be very difficult as a traditional company. Even Amazon, which can scale up and scale down by hundreds of thousands of people, that is a messy process to bring on hundreds of thousands and let go of hundreds of thousands of people. And don't get me wrong, I still cannot wrap my mind around the what in the hell Jeff Bezos must have in his brain to be able to think about all of these independent, highly specialized systems that are all operating, interoperating between each other. I bring them up because that's a good example of where we see Kylin and the interaction with the entire industry going. Something where we have tools for every single trade. In this case here, though, it's something that the real disruptor that I don't think is talked about enough, it's pretty underappreciated really, is the fact that the operational efficiency of Web 2 versus Web 3, of decentralized versus centralized, that's where the real kicker comes from. So yes, technologically speaking, we do have some advantages. Though to be frank, we're disadvantaged in a lot of ways. We don't have structure. We have to base things off of trust. And unfortunately, most of what we do is pretty intangible. So if someone doesn't get a result as fast as they want to immediately, and their expectations are not where they want them to be, and the market is down, so their bags are sad, and whatever else might be going on, well, yeah, it's reasonable that someone might go into a chat and get a little bit grumpy. And that's something where we see it as it shouldn't be something to punish, but the better we can understand and empathize and respond authentically, then perhaps the better that we can move forward and come up with solutions to get better. And this is the type of, I consider it almost like a organic healing, like a Terminator suit that's just able to rebuild itself. Because something where in a DAO structure, people are sitting on the same side of the table. It's not a manager that's sitting on one side negotiating a pay raise, and the manager doesn't want to pay anything because that comes out of his bonus, and the employee wants to make more, but I was also looking at just leaving and going somewhere else. Both of them are incentivized to give each other less. It's just, it can be a messy system. On the other hand, if we take a look at it from the perspective of, well, what if we had a system where if I help somebody to learn how to code in Substrate Rust, and perhaps they don't currently have a job, but they want to get into tech, and they see this as an opportunity, and they ape into studies and training, and 90 days later, they're banging out oracles faster than even our seasoned folks because they love it. Well, that guy is probably going to have no problem finding a position, at which point he's able to maximize himself or herself to continue to build what they want. And so they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't the case. If they wanted to design, if they wanted to write, then they would probably do that. There's lots of people in crypto that they say they admittedly they prefer the content creation side of things as opposed to the technical side. Now, I will be frank, I'll take a moment to I guess be a little bit vulnerable. I actually really prefer the building side, the engineering, the research, the training, the leadership side. I do enjoy quite a bit, but mostly I enjoy seeing people's progress, seeing the transformations occur, especially when that moment of inspiration, that when the eyes open of a person realizing that it's possible, that dream, that vision, the idea that a person has been sitting on since they were young, that they probably pushed down and nearly forgot, and all of a sudden that spark wakes up in a person's eyes as they realize the thing that makes them unique probably also can add a lot of value in some way to someone's life. And what typically happens from there is the accelerating rate of improvement and productivity increase, and to the point where then a tangible impact is produced, a profitable one, and then to find what new innovations and systems are created by someone who was just passionate about a thing that perhaps started off as an interest. That type of enthusiasm is valuable. it doesn't happen often. You can't put it on a resume. You can't just talk about it. And whenever, as the hypothetical shit hits the fan, those are the moments you can really see who was authentic and who wasn't. And it's something that to attract that in the Web 2 top down environment is really challenging. And the limiting variable, the limiting resource of where things are going in the big tech, big data, whatever in buzzword people use to describe these industries that we work in. As of right now, a small cap, micro cap company like us, yes, capital is a restricting piece. Because yes, even though we have some, we might need to make that last for 2 years because we have no idea what the market is going to be doing. And there's a lot of stuff we need to build. At the same time, though, once a blockchain project reaches that billion-dollar market cap level, it's not typically capital that stops them from being able to grow faster. It's talent. It's having enough people who care enough and are excited enough and who are inspired enough, incentivized enough for whatever reason, personal or otherwise, that they might be, to be able to stay dedicated and focused on solving tough problems, whether that's a creative, technical, leadership, strategic, communicative, or anything around or in between. It's something where that's a different system. That means not only would we hypothetically, from a DAO infrastructure, be able to scale up resourcing for talent faster, it could be scaled down faster. Because being project based, it's something where there is no expectation of like super duper long term stuff. And for people who want that, well, then there are opportunities available. But of course, they have higher responsibility expectations. I'm here plastering my face all over the internet when I've been quite private for the last half a decade. And that's a different level of responsibility that, you know what, it's something which it's not for everybody. And for people that are interested in blockchain development, I never ask where did you go to college and how many community service hours did you do. Instead, I ask people, what is it that you want with your life? Where are you going? Why are you doing what you're doing? And if you really had it your way, money wasn't an option, how would you be spending your time? What's meaningful to you? Why? Where did that come from? And what is the future that you want to see? Because if I can understand the ways the person works, what is it that guides them? And if there's a if there's a connection, a synergy between the path that they're going and what we're doing, that is a benefit for them, and of course they have the skills, experience, and or time to provide benefit for us as an organization. Well, now we're on the same side of the road. So now when things do get tough, because they will, and there's going to be overtime, well, like right now for our friends in Cebu, Philippines, there's literal hurricanes that will wipe out significant chunks of people's homes and stuff. So it's something where there's going to be tough times. And yeah, finding the kind of people that will stick around, that will remain not just focused, but help to make things better and better at an accelerating rate. And then what happens when you go from one leader that turns to two, that turns to 5 to 10 to 20? I mean, look at our community right now. Bull Sander, I'm looking at you as the catalyst between all of us. It's something where it only takes a few key people that believe, that truly feel like they're onto something. And obviously no one knows the future, no one knows what's going to happen, but it is something where if we can agree on where we want to go to, we may all have different ways to get there, but in a decentralized manner, we can all do the thing that we think is the best way. That's the beautiful place about a marketplace, is it makes it to where survival of the fittest helps to ensure that the highest quality products are the ones that are used the most. Figuring out how to get there is where we're at right now. So the idea here is that yes, blockchain has lots of advantages over traditional networking solutions. At the same time, it's something where there's multiple layers of convergence that are coming together. That is what, well, when you hear people talking about the absolutely astronomical sounding numbers of market cap and total valuation and just the sheer ridiculous growth of this industry we're working in. That's why. It's because it's not just value creation in one dimension. It's multi-layered. So the DAO infrastructure is also why when we're putting together an overarching business strategy, figuring out what would it take to get to 10 billion plus and beyond market cap. It was clear that we really had to understand, okay, well, what is the precedence within DAOs? What research has been done thus far, even if it's a bit limited? What's happening right now? And what problems are other DAOs facing? And what are the shoulda, woulda, couldas that might have gotten them so we can learn? It would behoove us to work together as a community to understand these things. And this is the type of stuff that, while yes, I will most certainly be building AI bots that will learn for me and essentially become an expansion of my brain so I can pick up information more quickly and take more effective action to propel towards, well, growth towards the big T. At the same time, it's something where we don't have those types of resources now, and we can go a heck of a lot faster by being able to work together. I have a certain corner of the internet that I typically spend my time because I spend the vast majority of my time diving through conversations and diving through books and just tearing my keyboard apart, building and creating whatever I'm doing, typically researching to find out what is the best way to make decisions. Where is technology and where are the trends going? And how can we make the biggest impact possible with that? What would we need? What types of people? What kind of environment would we need to support these people? How could we encourage and empower people in the most authentic way possible? And what is it that, in marketing, we call it the difference between what a person is selling, like what do you sell as a store, versus what are their customers buying? Because just because somebody is selling yoga pants, the customer may be buying a may be buying a dog walking pair of pants. She's specifically envisioning herself walking to the park. Maybe there's a small lake there, and she's thinking about what she's gonna look and feel and experience in those pants. So yes, they are yoga pants. They have a certain percentage cotton and various other materials, but the reason, the psychology, the not just emotion, but the demand driver on the lower level of why a person is buying a product, that's what you make your marketing around. While other people are typically selling yoga pants. So if you want to know why it is that most marketers don't make any money, but some marketers seem to slip and fall on millions of dollars, it's because by being able to think a little bit deeper, you can go further. And it really, when you're looking at the creative process, for a moment, you've got to be willing to consider just about anything. And like when we do creative sessions as a company, we make sure that you never shut down someone's idea. Something may be objectively, let's just be rude and call it stupid. At the same time, though, how would someone come up with that conclusion? What percentage of people might come up with a conclusion similar? Are there any side effects of that? Are there any arbitrage opportunities available to generate disproportionate value compared to risk, compared to the market? It's something that these are the questions of a data scientist, data analyst, or data professional in general. And so to imagine how, man, we set up a system that makes it easier for companies to not just create, but manage and scale decentralized autonomous organizations. A lot of people kind of, and it's probably a topic we'll go into further, which is what in the heck is the difference between Pichiu and Kylin, and aren't they distracting from each other? Doesn't that water down the brand? And lots of other concepts that, yeah, are worth considering. It's something where we have considered those, and those will be topics we dive into during this content brain blast that we're going through as a community. But it's something where oh, excuse me, I blanked. This is interesting observation that I'm making from this. I'm curious, how long has this been going at this point? 2 hours, about 4 hours deep for the day. See, I typically grind. I mean, I work like an absolute animal, and I literally don't remember a time when I didn't. 20, 2013, 2012, maybe. It's been a while of just being in this crazy mode. And I say that because I know what getting tired feels like, but it is surprisingly exhaustive doing these types of things. I don't know if it's having these ridiculously bright lights in my face because I never knew. Like I always wondered, why do people have the big ass light boxes on their behind the scenes stuff? And now I understand. Oh, that's how it is that they make the images, like the video, look better. Anyways, I share this because it's also pretty cool to have this kind of experimental environment to determine what is modern, what is the formula for modern, not just marketing, but modern business. Because a concept that I don't know how common it is, but it's the kind of stuff that at least the people I know think about every single day. And that is, what are the markets of the future? Like imagine within a metaverse where they get to a point that people are spending more money in the metaverse than they spend off, in real life. And that while might sound obscene or excessive or insane, there was a point where a person would be considered a psychopath for putting their credit card number on the internet. Like, are you nuts? There was a point that would be the most terrifying thing that you could do, but nowadays that's arguable. Most things are going to be in some way navigated through the internet, and we built systems that are able to support that. Things change fast, and they're only changing faster and faster. So by being able to empower innovation, by helping make systems work more efficiently, by creating trustless ecosystems, trustless systems that make it to where ecosystems can collaborate and communicate better. Essentially, anything that would require any level of trust, such as working together on a project, the elements and layers that is the reason why people typically need to be hired for this type of stuff. That's where the opportunities are. Because if we can help people make better decisions, and that's really where I'd say the lowest hanging fruit, at least one of them next to automation. And arguably automation is a part of what we're describing. So because one necessitates the other, yeah, we're going to have both if we shoot for making excellent decision-making, machine learning and artificial intelligence pipelines. In that way, anybody who has data, and data could be the interactions and communications and voting systems of a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO for short, or it could be as transactional as a bunch of order book data from a specific exchange that's determining the relative volatility across 10 different exchanges for a news article that they're going to syndicate for a fee. I don't know. Like, there's just so many ways to monetize data that it's probably what makes me so happy about working in this industry, is because there's just an infinite amount of value that can be created. And one man's trash is another man's treasure in this environment, because data, much like oil, is freaking useless in its raw form. But man, once data is refined and effectively utilized, oh boy, well, enough trillions of dollars have already been made to prove a concept is. So I guess the cat is out of the bag, but it looks like this journey has just begun. So I'm going to take a moment and see if we have any chats. Let's see. Okay, I think I found where we're at. Longtime lurker, supporter, and bag holder. Nice to meet you. Luis or Lewis? Awesome. I appreciate your kind words. Yeah, we looking at doing something a little bit different here. And it's well, it's feedback like this that helps us know if we're on the right track or not. So thank you for stepping out of the shadows for a moment and saying hello. Your feedback's super helpful. And yeah, let us know if you have any other insights, have any questions. The Kylin militia is completely open. So I know Bull Sander recently dropped a couple messages in Telegram that will link to this group. Would love to see you lurking in there too. Oh, fantastic. An engineer. Yeah, yeah. Please join the militia. Huh. I like this quote. Comes from the a naval quote there. Building specific knowledge will feel like play to you, but will look like work to others. I could see it. I could see it. Most people who see my lifestyle don't envy me. Okay, maybe when they see like it's the more materialistic things, like I don't I mean, compared to people around me, I don't feel like I have a lot of money, but I do get the luxury of traveling. That's nice. At the same time, though, I work a lot and it's fun. Oh yeah, that's cool. From the Philippines. I love Cebu. It's but yeah, it's tough to see what's happening there though. I lived there for a little over a year, and so many places that I would frequent a couple times a month. Just I can't imagine what someone must be going through. Thanks for hopping in, Lewis. Thanks, Gina. Yeah, I'm figuring this out as I go. At first, I was super duper nervous, but I think I've spent hours in front of the camera now, so it's made it a little bit easier to handle, yes, just trying out new things and having worked completely 100% remotely since 2017. I've also spent a lot of time on Zoom, so I kind of just tricked my brain into thinking that it's just a Zoom call, and it actually kind of works out because we are actively streaming through Zoom. So it's feels the same, but then I see a recording of myself or a screenshot, and I'm not nearly I guess skilled or big enough at all where people are taking apart the words and doing whatever in the heck they might do with them. But yeah, it's definitely I get anxiety when I see what gets out there. But as I take more action, is I forget which mentor taught me this, but I believe Travis. He had shared that whenever something is scary, uncomfortable, makes you nervous, whatever it might be, action is a solution. For myself, growing up, I actually struggle with depression. I guess I could even say struggle. These mental health challenges, they're rampant in the online remote industry. And anybody, I mean, even gentlemen like myself, we all have a story. We all have a past. And it's something where point is, it just taught me that whenever someone's nervous, scared, depressed, action is typically going to, if not be a solution to help a person get to the next level, it'll at least be able to create enough of a conscious interrupt to allow them to look at things at a or from a different perspective, and potentially a perspective that can help them to navigate to the next level of wherever it is they're trying to go. Well, hey everybody, I'm going to be frank. My voice is going out, and this is getting difficult. So I'm going to take a quick break, like 5 minutes, get a sip of water, and then I'm going to dive right back in and see where it's going because I'm realizing now that I'm much more fatigued from this process of attempting to extract all of the information I can out of my brain so we can accelerate the process of moving towards a DAO-like ecosystem, as well as to help productionalize a team, help create more transparency and more details for the leadership and the stakeholders and the VCs that are observing everything that's happening. And on top of that, to be able to connect with the people that may be on the sidelines, interested, watching, lurking, as our friend Lewis had described. And I just want to be able to show like this is an environment where your voice can be heard. And as I'm looking at it, this series isn't going to be done today. And I could rush through this. I could just shotgun each of these questions, but hidden within the insights we've gathered, a lot of these insights, they're in my brain and we need to get it out. And while, yes, other people, of course, have it, it's spread out a bunch of other people. So what I've been doing over the course of the last, well, I guess 4 years is working with different people and the few members of my team that have stuck for this entire crazy ride of a journey. They picked up some pretty cool skills and learned how to adapt and how to grow very, very quickly and effectively. And so, anyways, I digress, but I do want to take a moment and give a shout out to everybody that's working hard in the background on on what will end up being the foundation to build the foundation by which the future of mass adoption blockchain can navigate. Because if we're setting up the superhighway, that's what allows people to traverse all the different networks. So when a developer wants to create an app that takes the best of both worlds from two different places, it's going to be because of systems that, like what we're doing, that allows them to understand what's needed, what are the risks, and how successful or not successful can other products be at it, whatever automations and insights that people may need. It's going to be there's going to be some aspect of machine learning or AI inside of that, and that's all going to have data of which most folks is just sitting around collecting dust. On the other hand, if there was a way to be able to safely, securely, and within compliance be able to submit data that's doing nothing and turn that into something, that alone is something that very well could create quite a movement. So anyways, I just really appreciate everything that the team does. These are folks that we have all been through a whole lot. We've seen a whole lot of things. We've sold pretty much everything under the sun, from laser esthetician machines to plasma cut and laser type engraving items to high ticket accounting and financial services. I mean, just all sorts of different items. And to see the way that these are community members, these are folks that are also lurking in the chats, just like so many others, that they see the vision of what we're doing and they wanted to be able to help, and to know that we're coming from a off-chain perspective and completely transforming the way that we see. I mean, when Michael Saylor says that the mathematical models, this is a guy who runs a Fortune 500 data analytics company. He went to school at MIT decades ago and has been dominating the game for decades. This is like the data scientist. And he says that the old models don't work. And I've always scratched my head and wondered, like, what does he mean by that? What's different about them? I don't even know what the old models were. Can't they just do different and then make it? But the transition is challenging. I mean, everybody here at one point did not know the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And for anybody who maybe is like myself and is part of this newer wave of blockchain adopters, in my case, I was part of the March class. That was when I got really put both feet into the water with blockchain and with crypto assets. But it's something where these folks, they took the risk of shifting their direction. They were working for a digital marketing agency. We did Facebook ads, Google ads. We do some data analytics, we consulting. But our bread and butter was advertising in e-commerce and in web development and such. At the same time, the transition completely, not just into blockchain, but blockchain data, because they could see the impact and power that the algorithm has inside of advertising. And every single day we watch hundreds of millions of dollars exchange hands on these ad networks. And we realize that having a 0.5% edge when you're talking about an optimization in a system that might be doing thousands upon thousands of decisions. Impressions is what we call them. When someone sees an ad online, a 0.5% difference can be substantial, especially if you're talking about the conversion rate of a high ticket offer. And these are the types of situations where we didn't know what it would take, but these folks took a leap and they spent months studying and preparing in order to be the best possible team to serve Kylin and making an amazing not just marketing infrastructure, but also talking with our developers. And these are folks that they weren't doing substrate before. In fact, they weren't even working in Rust. They decided to double down and learn Rust and then apply what they've learned to use substrate to build the palettes that we now have operational because Sam and Logan and Evo and Sean and oh my goodness, but our entire team, I see their pseudonyms and their profile pictures, but it's something where our team, these folks just they work so hard. It's not just the work that they do, it's the risks that they take in sleepless nights and long hours and changing conditions when expectations are one thing and then demand is different. And unfortunately, it's something that this can be a pretty rough environment. And well, I'm absolutely honored to say that we are surrounded with the absolute best people on our team. And a big part of that does probably relate that to Dylan and Bullsander, because to be frank, that was the beacon of light that drew me in. Because when I saw Dylan, I was like, he seems like a cool dude. And then I got to know Bullsander. I was like, this guy is super cool. And then I lurked and watched, and I was like, man, okay, this is really how these people are. And over a couple of weeks, I think I got to know Bullsander. I wrote a novel about what my experience is and what type of value I think I can provide for Kylin, the exact nature of what type of action I could take, the value I think it would provide, and then the remuneration that I would expect for doing this. I started off doing work for absolutely free because I wanted to get to know them and for them to get to know me. And then I got started at a full-time position. And even that was a test for 90 days to determine that I actually may not be some Yahoo that's going to run away the first 2 weeks, but I'm actually going to follow through with what I say. And then less than 90 days later, I was made the CEO and I stepped down today and became the monetization architect. Because we're not a top-down company. We're not a traditional Web 2.0 company. We're Web 3. We're working towards being a completely decentralized, autonomous organization. In order to get there, we're going to have to do things differently. And the thing about this type of environment, it's the people that make this happen. It's being able to have it to where we can connect and we can interact and we can bring the right people in. And I just take a moment to talk more about the people on the inside right now, because I spend most of my time talking about the people externally in the community. And I really do hate this dichotomy of internal and external, because we're all one community and at the end of the day. But as far as the responsibility goes, someone else in the community may have a bag, but if they don't submit an update or a report by a certain time, it's not like there's any type of financial consequence to the bag holder. To the person who's working, though, they have an expectation to follow through on stuff. So it's something where by having these options, everything from the more intense environment of, hey, let's work together, and actually within that, I'm actually wanting to innovate, make it to where I'm super intense, so I've got super intense people around me, and we kind of just attract what we are usually. But I want to expand out to where then we can have more part-time positions, and then using the marketplace and the systems we'll build for Pichiu, and then of course Kylin, once we validate them on Pichiu, it'll be all milestone based. And that's really the kicker. That's the part that is the sleeping giant. It's why of obviously there's no financial advice, but I would argue that we're undervalued right now. And my math models suggest that the demand for the types of services that we're creating are probably going to be a bit high. We're very early. We have a lot of work to do. And right now we're not even launched yet. So at this stage, it's really about looking at how can we empower the people who are with us, support them and encourage them, and add as much value to make it to where they can continue to grind and do what they do best, because we don't hire anyone that isn't doing something that they love or that they enjoy. Somebody that's just looking for a gig to get them by for the next couple months, this probably isn't the place. But for somebody who wants to develop a skill, who wants to become great, who's looking to make a difference and be on a path that is likely to make a lot of money, there's no guarantees. And especially when you're talking about micro cap blockchains, there's absolutely, one should absolutely expect volatility. At the same time, though, it's one hell of a ride. And I just had to take more than a moment to thank everybody that's here working with us. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. Swisher Maine, what's up? Good to see you. I'm not sure. I think we just went to the new week, Swisher Maine, so I'm not sure how much Kusama is there for this next round. Multitasking, nice. It's an interesting question. I like this. This is from Brian. And Brian, is so good to see you. Nate, nice to see you as well in here. Yeah, see our team. They're working and hanging out in here. Doxed. Nah, I was playing. We're pretty upfront. So, do you believe traditional Web2 corporations will be cooperative with decentralized data? Yeah, so this is interesting because this is pure dubious. I mean, to the point of almost being irresponsible levels of speculation, just full disclosure, because we're exploring a concept that no one knows what's going to happen. So if I was making an educated guess to help us look at which direction would we be going, how big might certain risks be, and what is our likely or unlikely probability of success. In this way, I would imagine that if we build it strategically, we become a massive value add and ideally a necessity to Web2 companies, and one that is a positive relationship. I do imagine that the Web2 companies, though, are not likely going to necessarily even bother with anything that we're doing, though. I think it's something where blockchain, for sure, while it's very big and there's a bunch of opportunities in it, the amount of work that it would take to be able to replicate and get the adoption and integrate into a system that's already being maxed out, doing whatever it's doing, running $1 trillion business or multi-$100 billion business, to steer that ship a whole different direction is pretty difficult. And there's some real, I mean, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, these guys are going to build anything that they can. But if they're already on a certain trajectory, what they're probably going to do is let the other, in this case, blockchain and decentralized data build up to a certain point, and then I think they're going to be using us and then applying that to what they're doing. And if I was to really get dubious with this speculation, shout out to Benjamin Cohen, it's something where I would guess that we would be selling the service of direct connection to blockchain. Because let's say Amazon as an example, it would be really useful to get network level direct access to the, let's just say, the metaverse marketplaces on different blockchains. Yet to have that connect to their ecosystem, their infrastructure, they can build some kind of custom tooling. But imagine a decentralized organization like us that has a couple hundred people scattered all over the world that dedicate a significant chunk of their time building Kusama tools to help accelerate the rate at which we can innovate new solutions. And well, this has been going on for years, but then Amazon comes in and they've got a whole bureaucratic system, and this person needs to give approval to that person, and oh, we need to actually bring in these people from this other team. Oh no, we need to change the direction. Oh, we're not going this direction anymore, we need to do this. Oh, hey, why is this late? I thought it was supposed to be done a week ago. Oh, well, that's right, we changed direction. The point is, if we take the less than efficient systems that exist in Web 2, it's something that we end up scaling faster, and they're going to need a solution around that. And decentralized data is one of those solutions because this gets really geeky, but I'm going to dive in. You have different systems like data governance, figuring out what data types are you going to be using, what tech stacks are going to make sense in which applications, who has access to what data, and how are you determining, how are you tracking and monitoring who accesses data in case of a breach, and the security systems behind all of this. And there's just so many layers that are um, just gruesome for somebody that may not be enthusiastic about the math and science behind everything on the data side of things. But if we take a moment to consider all of those different levels of complexity, it would make more sense, in my opinion, that the large Web2 leaders of the world would just let us grow and build something super big. And then they're probably just going to create integrations. They'll have their own version that'll capture a chunk of their own ecosystems. And then more likely than not, they're going to find a way to monetize something on what we're doing, which I welcome, because the more query fees that we have, the more of our community members that are getting paid. Because I'm going to be so excited when we build a sexy dashboard that shows every single different way of visualizing the queries and the amount of revenue being generated and the volume of data being transferred, and showcasing breakdown of different industries and application types, data types, programming languages. I don't know, all whatever objective metrics that can show where the network is going. Anyways, got a little bit overly excited there, but yeah, it's something that I think that's going to be a benefit for us. All right, everybody. So I have got to take a break. I'm just gonna pause it again because I'm gonna dive right back in. I'm definitely feeling pretty exhausted. Yet I want to see what more I can handle. And quite frankly, I'm a bit disappointed I did not go for 6 hours, which was my goal. I'm currently at 5 hours. At the same time, though, I just I thought that I could go through everything in 4 to 6 hours. So here's another moment of the type of vulnerability we're looking for, and a peek behind the veil of what the process can look like. We didn't know, and I didn't know an expectation of how long it would take to get certain information out. And I find I type very quickly, and it's not enough to be able to get everything out there. Talking, the human brain forgets, only remembers, let's look at it from the positive perspective, remembers only 5 to 10% of the information that goes in there. And unless you're taking notes and reviewing them every single day, that number is going to deteriorate rapidly to where, well, what did you have for breakfast 14 days ago? Certain data points just aren't useful for the conscious mind anymore. And in this case here, um, that can happen. Gina, I appreciate it. But yeah, no, this is part of the experiment. This is part of the data that's being gathered. So, anyways, be right back, y'all. Till next time. Not till next time. In a moment. I'll have to figure out some kind of a pause transition. Brian, we should have some kind of dope animation effect that I can share my screen to and have playing in the background. And to have like some kind of like metaverse environment. You could probably even turn that into a monetization tool where we can yeah, put some kind of an impressions engine on there for PPC. Anyways, I digress. See, I'm getting right back into the use cases. All right, BRB, y'all. All right. Hello, everybody. We are back and live. And all right, so I am definitely nearing the end of my rope. So tomorrow I'm going to take another crack at it and just keep chipping away a couple hours every single day on top of doing our Q&A lives. And well, with an effective 12 to 15 hours is typically what I can do in an optimal environment, up to 18, but that is excessive. But it leaves quite an amount of time to still take care of my own personal work duties, fulfill the research that needs to be done, as well as continue on the path of being able to pick up the skills needed to best be able to build Gen 2 machine learning oracles. I'm so excited to be able to bring out something of an MVP. We're still working together as a team to figure out the best way to not just put out an MVP, but to associate it to a partnership. What I'm going to do in this last section is go through whatever questions there are inside of the militia chat that may have come up so far. And I know that we do have quite a long list from the ambassadors of other questions. I'll take care of those. I think we'll do a morning coffee AMA live to go over those questions, and then I'll continue on with the deep dives. Some more details that we have to deep dive into is going to be partnership strategy and exactly what's going on with partnerships, talking a bit more specific and particular, describing opportunities that there are to participate within the militia, and going into more ideas about how we intend to really add value for those who do participate within the Kylin militia, as well as how to be able to best interact with this collective value, this system of a marketplace that can both showcase the demand of different types of data points that people want access to, as well as to supply creative new joins of different data types that may be able to provide innovative solutions. It's something where there's a lot of cool ways to look at it, because any data application, it would behoove them to have some type of a front-end marketing infrastructure. And that leads me into talking more about what is the actual marketing strategy. And we had put together a if it took me 38 collective pages to write up the introduction to how the website should be built out, I would easily write a damn 300 to 500 page textbook if I had to put together what all it is that would need to be organized and effectively deployed to pull off the entire strategy. And yeah, I'm just going to keep on chipping away at more insights of what exactly that is and how that looks. So yeah, without any further ado, let me go on in here and see what else we got. Is Kylin the first project which does this type of thing? And will Kylin finish first? So, a couple of perspectives about this question. It's an interesting idea. Number one, are we the first to do this type of thing in terms of Gen 2 Oracles? I do believe that we're going to be the first. I haven't seen anybody else who's putting together some type of a open source, interactive, decentralized marketplace that allows anybody with any API to connect into a crowdsourced data solution. I haven't seen that yet. I don't think there's anyone else doing that. Now, as far as some of the solutions that can be built on the marketplace, storage solutions, oracles, different AI algorithms, yes, there are many excellent projects that also offer that. But this kind of ties into where the hesitation, my answer came in, which is being first isn't best. I mean, who remembers Ask Jeeves? I'm not saying that they were the first search engine, but I mean that they were pretty early. And while being early is most certainly an advantage, I'm actually hesitant to ever be the first. I'm so ecstatic. And I'm so happy that Chainlink paved the way to lay the foundation to exactly how does the market currently value data solutions? How much demand is there, and what type of monetization opportunities exist when it comes down to data solutions? And while price feeding oracles were a excellent entry into the blockchain space in terms of immediately monetizable, it's now something that we've been able to analyze what they're doing and to ideally continue to work closer and closer within their ecosystem to learn how can we build upon the value that they're providing no different than what in the spirit of interoperability, which is why the team at Parity and Gavin Wood have spent 4 years relentlessly working towards building this infrastructure of Polkadot to be completely interoperable with other blockchains over time. As developers create parachains and bridges and connect more and more assets to this collective internet of blockchains, it makes it to where they're not in competition with each other. They're building on top of each other and innovating in different directions to add more overall value. So it's something that being first isn't necessarily a value. It's not necessarily a good thing because then you're walking blind. Kind of like us as we're navigating this new type of content that's being created. We're not the first ones to do it, but being our first time, it's definitely, I'm guessing I'm going to be a lot more comfortable, effective, and natural with these types of live streams after doing 100 live streams as opposed to these first few. Similar concept when scaling hypergrowth companies. It's if they have a roadmap to follow, our probability of success is much higher. And to look at instead of are we the first ones to do something, I love the framework that a billionaire engineer Peter Diamandis puts together, which he describes don't solve problems that exist today, because if there's already solutions for them, that means there's already a red ocean market, shark infested waters of other companies that are doing that, at which point it's a race to the bottom to either offer lower prices or to expand out services where the efficiency goes down. On the other hand, if you look a little bit ahead into the future where things will probably be, consider what problems are likely and preferably inevitably going to occur, and what is a solution that can be provided that would be able to be monetized from that situation. At which point there's not really competitors, so to speak, to work from, because if we're able to connect the dots of adding value directly from the MVP and then guiding ourselves like that grappling hook to bring us in the direction of where we're going, there's just not likely as many projects that are attacking the exact same specific far off problem that we're going for. And if there is, well, that means we're likely going to innovate and learn from each other. And well, there's a whole lot of battlefield to be able to play on. And more likely than not, we would just find a bigger market that we have a high probability of being able to add a metric whack ton of value, if I was to not offer any numbers that could potentially be misleading or anything. Where is Sam? Yeah, so Sam is actually on holiday at the moment. He let everybody know almost a month ago now that that he'll actually be moving forward, and we had an official announcement several weeks ago at this point. And being the middle of the holidays, and Sam has been burning the candle at both ends and leading and training our team of developers to effectively interact with, build, and now innovate upon the palettes that they've built on Polkadot for Kylin. It's something where he's taking a break and is transitioning into his new project that he's recently started. So we won't be seeing him as much on this side of the camera when it comes to Kylin, though he's still a major part of our community. We partnered together to create a substrate builders group, a substrate developers group, where we're collaborating to train and educate and teach developers how to enter the exciting world of Polkadot blockchain development. It's an extraordinarily lucrative opportunity because as demand rises up, we see an extraordinary upside and where things can go. And well, while things are quite small right now, the fact is there's more problems that need to be solved. And for leaders, people like Sam, it's something where, again, time is the investment that we spend. And typically everyone has their own vision of how they can best provide an impact on the world. And so in his case, he sees the opportunity of being able to help train substrate developers and empower people to build on the Polkadot blockchain network, as well as to go in this direction in his dream and his vision, which that's the spirit of decentralization. I mean, to be able to walk in alignment and in sync when the tides are right, and then for people to also have the flexibility to go the direction that they may choose. I'm going to dive on into the militia. Okay, so I'm just going from the top. So someone had asked about what is a realistic amount of DOT that we might need for winning that parachain. And, you know, that's something I would say that we really don't have enough data on yet in terms of where DOT auctions might be 2 to 3 months from now. You know, it's something where I couldn't say when exactly we'll be launching our DOT auctions. I know that we basically have it to where, from a technical standpoint, we have what's needed to launch DOT, because it's very similar to what we have on Kusama. The difference is we just need to go through a couple extra audits. We're going to have a working marketplace with an effective UI on top of it. And we're going to have to prove that this has been working well on the Canary network market to showcase to the team at Parity and to maintain our responsibilities with the Substrate Builders program. So the point is that while they've just finished their first round, and major congratulations to everybody that won those first auctions, it is something where when we're looking to speculate on what might happen in the future a couple months from now, it's very tough to determine. You know, overarching macro market conditions such as, you know, are we going into some kind of mega dump where the entire global economy crashes? Are we looking at a boom period where it's another instantaneous bounce back like what happened last year? Do we go through a dead man zone and this kind of things go sideways for a while and everything quiets down? Actually, maybe some kind of gnarly regulation steps in and spooks people. Maybe it's the opposite, and the governments are like, hey, CBDCs are coming out super soon and we need more blockchain developers, and all of a sudden they're subsidizing big tech investments in educations. Okay, I'm fantasizing now, but the point is nobody knows what's going to happen. And so the way that we look at it is, how can we best prepare to be ready for whatever might occur? And the solution that seems to be the best option on the table is, let's empower our community with as much educational material, documentation, visualizations. We want to have beautiful PDF documents, like little worksheets that can give like a quick summary and some visual aids about different topics that are fundamental, and have animations that can describe stuff. And there's all sorts of content types we like to be able to experiment with. And we have the ability to, because again, we have a partner in a marketing agency that's willing to work at a loss in order to be able to support the community, because, well, we got to start somewhere. And on top of that, this lays the foundation for us to open things up even further and get even more community involvement. So it's something where with how we mitigate the risk of not having enough DOT is by making sure that we have enough systems in place to get as much reach as possible, as many people that are understanding and have effective knowledge of what Kylin is and how it works. So that way, when people across the interwebs are asking questions, there's more and more folks, those lurkers in the shadows, that can just drop an anonymous comment here and there, guiding people in the right track to what's really happening here at Kylin. Because the fact is, blockchain in general is already a rather overwhelming industry for most people. And big data is an entirely different niche and corner of this industry that has its own complexity. So mixing the two together, the more people we can help to educate themselves in the DYOR to do their own research about this, that will likely give us a higher network effect of individuals that we have to market to, or the total addressable market that we can interact with. If we compare that to Pichiu, where we had to actually push it before having any type of marketing stuff ready. So from a technical standpoint, yes, everything was good to go, but I'll tell you, it definitely hurt from a marketing perspective that we didn't have at least 2 to 3 weeks to be able to have proper education, proper documentation, proper examples, and a whole infrastructure available to make the smoothest entry possible for the parachain. But we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. Launch too soon and have an awkward entry, or potentially wait months and maybe not even launch Polkadot on Polkadot until into the summertime. That didn't sound very fun. So it's something where I believe that by coming together as a community and finding the ways that we can serve as many partners as possible, build as many use cases as possible, and make it easy. And I like to even make it fun through gamification. For people to be able to join our community and effectively start building data solutions that can add value to the industry at large. These are the things that will gather the attention of influencers and different folks that have influence within different communities and environments that would lead to being able to raise more DOT during the crowd loan. And having had an infrastructure like that, my guess would be that we wouldn't have the challenges we're facing right now. A conversation here about the idea that our focus on Pichiu very well may distract from Kylin, and that this could be a negative impact on our overall branding. So, this is something that I think is a short-term risk that's likely. Unfortunately, it is something that even Dot versus Kusama is a bit confusing on what is the point, what is the difference between them. Um, Personally, I don't have a concern on it distracting too much from Kylin, because we're building this in a way that each one of them has a functional value to provide. It's something where Kylin can be this environment that is the core foundation of the data economy of the entire interoperable blockchain ecosystem, because of how we're built natively into Polkadot. Yet there's so many different tools and systems and items that need to be tested and validated, that the Pichiu network is there as a resource to Kylin. Each one of these, let's just call them databases. They're not just databases, but for the example, let's just say that they're both a database. Well, these databases, they require a token to be able to operate, kind of like an arcade. Pop a coin in, now you can play the game. In this case here, instead of a coin, it's a token. So the testing network, where people can have whatever tools they might need for building various items, as well as for being able to run live economic tests in a live marketplace. The Canary network's a place for that on Pichiu. Yet Kylin is where that major marketplace and where the main interaction, and that's what people know. Pichiu is there as a supporting element of Kylin. So if we take a look at different M&A, mergers and acquisitions, when one company might buy out another company and then they combine together. At first, it's a little confusing, like, oh, hey, what happened to Wachovia? I didn't realize that I've got, I think, a US bank or something that ended up buying them. It's an awkward transition for a little bit, but at some point, people realize that, okay, yeah, no, this isn't Wachovia anymore. This is US Bank now, whoever it was that bought them out. In this case here, Kylin is what people would know, but Pichiu is a component of Kylin that, for those who are really diving in deep and want to understand the nitty gritty of how our network architecture works, they would understand the opportunities available by being able to effectively leverage the individual ecosystems between both Pichiu and Kylin. And part of the responsibility and opportunity that we have as a community is to be able to maximize the apparent value of both networks, and as well as to utilize both assets to accelerate our rate of innovation. So that way we can grow even faster and will guide more market share in a shorter period of time. I do agree. People online do have a tendency for shorter attention spans, and the understanding of crypto is still quite early stage. That's also a benefit, though, because as of right now, we have time to build the education systems, documentation, and visualizations that will help people better understand what's happening. And as it becomes more clear what exactly the difference between these two assets are, I believe it'll also become easier for people to discern the differences between them. Let's see. So yeah, it's something that a lot of conversations about marketing and being able to draw attention. And there's a great book. I don't remember who wrote it, but the Google does exist. There it is, Made the Stick, by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. So Made the Stick is like a marketing classic, of the whole concept is marketing isn't just about spamming the same message over and over and over and over and over and over and over like the radio and TV ads of old. Instead, it's about being able to plant an idea into someone's mind that becomes captivating enough to encourage and inspire somebody to take an action of some type. So when it comes down to doing marketing, as people might be asking about in the chats, it is something where yes, there's absolutely actions that need to be taken. Yet to make sure that the actions are effective is just as important of a variable to consider. So as of right now, the marketing strategy from a high level, and we will be as we continue to go through these live streaming sessions, going into just insane levels of detail about everything on how we absolutely maximize our opportunities and resources for the most effective scaling strategy, leveraging looking under every nook and cranny and rock and stone to be able to create as much value as possible for our partners. It really comes down to understanding what is a message that will stick, something that is captivating enough to bring a person to action, yet also understandable and reasonable enough that they can get it and rationalize that decision in order to make to really pull the trigger and move forward. And in this case here, that might be a partner that decides to dedicate two of their developers to work with us on some kind of an integration or a visualization or whatever type of system we might be building with them, and dedicating their dev resources towards that as opposed to some other initiative. Or it might be somebody that's considering investing in the token and they're not sure between if they're going to do a 20% allocation or a 5% allocation. And perhaps they just perhaps we just blend it in as another Oracle project, the worst thing that could happen. And if we're judged by that perspective, then we don't look like the best winner. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's probably not going to be the most accurate assessment. So in this case here, when it comes down to marketing, it is a matter of being able to get more content out there, to make more posts, to have prettier pictures, and absolutely to have a quality website. Yet above and beyond simply having these things, much like the 5 stages of data monetization, which is an exponential chart of the difference in effectiveness and profitability, it's a parallel example for how it works with marketing effectiveness. Many people do marketing, quote unquote, but it's something where how many people are able to really do it well in a matter that sticks. That is where we want to really focus on. And what I believe we've really cracked, what we've tapped into, what we've spent many months and at this point weeks putting everything into action, and actively now day by day and week by week we've been accelerating the amount of content we're getting out there, testing out different techniques, add music, no music, low music, different intro stylings. And yeah, I know it can be a bit jarring for some because we have a lot of different styles and colors and fonts and all sorts of stuff happening right now, and it looks like a bit of a mess. Yet we're also building this live, where usually it could take many months for some agency in the background to even show anything individually. And in this case here, unfortunately, it looks quite similar, because if the idea is that marketing is just a website, then well, this will look like utter failure. On the other hand, if the intention is to be able to take an extraordinarily abstract, complicated concept and be able to start to roll out a plan to be able to make this more accessible in a humanized manner that gets people excited to participate and shows them opportunities that are competitive to whatever other opportunities people could spend their time and attention in other parts of the blockchain ecosystem. Well, coming up with that, that's harder to put as a line item and to send the delivery for. And that's what I believe we have next. So I hope that helps. I know it's still quite high level, and I can actually talk pretty fast. I listen to videos way faster than I communicate, but I also understand that comprehension goes down if I'm speaking like I'm recording on fast forward. So we will get through this and we will dive into all of these details. And for the questions, as they flow in, I'll definitely need some help to organize them because they're kind of scattered right now. And so if I miss anybody, I apologize. But it is something where the idea here is to go into all of these details, get it on recording, live out to the internet, in a place where we can come together and discuss it, scrutinize it. Like, let's have a conversation, find out, is there a better way to do things faster, more efficient, cheaper, higher probability of success? Because if somebody has an insight, we're open to hearing it. It doesn't mean that we can instantly execute and take action on everything immediately, because sometimes the ball is already rolling and it will take more to shift its direction than to just follow through and adjust the trajectory. On the other hand, it is something where the idea is to go from where we've been very reactive as a company previously to being proactive, to being able to share, hey, here's what we're thinking, or here's a challenge that we're experiencing, or here's something cool that we're working on. You know, right now we've got some more clips coming out that will be dropping on YouTube. We also have the website that does appear to be, and from last I checked, it looks like we're good for tomorrow. It might be Wednesday. I'm not actively managing it. I'm here on a live with everybody, getting this information out into the ether so that way we can start breaking it down. At the same time, it's something where on top of that, we're playing with different types of visualizations and graphics. We have our first media packs going out with our partners. The first partner we'll be breaking down is a fascinating DeFi NFT type platform with a massive, massive community and what I think is a very exciting vision of what they're doing. They seem to be making a big difference. And we're pretty soon going to be launching the collaborative marketing campaigns with them. We've got NFT and metaverse products that are going to be branded with Kylin as part of a collaboration with another project, as well as a separate project where we're doing more with the Flashfire NFTs to continue to find new ways to add more value and utility to the people that have been with us the longest, and to encourage other folks to be able to participate with the various events and interesting things we have going on. It's part of the benefit of being a part of our militia, and shameless plug for joining into our inner circle. Anybody is welcome. It's an environment that what we're looking for is to be able to get everything that's happening as a company out on recording, so that way we can categorize it, organize that information, analyze and see what makes the most sense, so that way as a community we can see how can we use the collective resources available between all of us, so that way we can have the highest probability of seeing the full potential of Kylan's growth happen. And in this case, we actually are incentivized to sit on the same side of the table. It's why I have such struggles with dichotomies such as internal and external, because the fact is, we all rely on each other. So if it sounds interesting, if you've ever wanted to participate at a closer level with the blockchain project, to interact directly with the team and the ambassadors and the leadership, as well as the other community leaders like yourself that may have ideas or perhaps just be looking for creative ways to make money online, it's something where this is an environment that we're looking to create something that will end up being quite a movement. Look at Amazon, eBay, Etsy, all of these different marketplaces that they democratize the ability to sell something. And by making it to where there's a safe and consistent, secure and efficient process to be able to facilitate these transactions, it created an exponential growth that for these companies can generate tens of billions of dollars of equity level market cap value. So if we take the network effect of blockchain, it's likely going to be an accelerating process. And well, whether you're a developer, designer, enthusiast, influencer, or maybe you're just looking to learn more about how this stuff really works and you're just exploring to see what the background looks like. Feel free to reach out inside of our Telegram group. Someone can drop the link to the militia channel. And I believe that there's an announcement about it as well. And we'd love to see you in there. Ask any question that comes to your mind. And I can't promise I'll see all of them, but as we progress, I'd like to have systems that are able to capture and collect as many questions as possible. So as we continue cranking out, I mean, dozens of hours of content just like this, and the team slices and dices it into organized and effective, valuable pieces of content, it'll make it so that way we're able to expand across multiple social channels. We'll be able to collaborate by joining in the growth of an exponentially increasing amount of partners. And the system that's being built would also allow us to work together as a community more efficiently, because we can have that transparency and we can have that openness, which it'll probably take us close to 60 days to really figure out how to get the optimal efficient systems. But a group like this and calls like this are what's going to get us on that right track to at least move closer to the direction that we want to go. So we keep on navigating through here. Yeah, and education tab is definitely a big part of what we're looking at doing. I'm especially want to be able to break it down to where there's documentation, which is a more technical, that's what developers are looking for, but to also have something that's more consumer friendly and to make it to where we can have it so a person can navigate to the environment that's best for them, as well as being able to figure out what types of material would help in an education standpoint, how to actually get it built. Do we coordinate as a community? Maybe different people write different things. And I know like Juan, he's really been setting the precedence of how we can collaborate as a community to add value in a way that helps so many others, because he has written some brilliantly architected reports and breakdowns of how big data works, and his data journey, or like it shows all the different things to learn about data. It's brilliant. I mean, I wish something like that existed when I started learning about this stuff, because it definitely helps to accelerate the learning process. So being able to help nail each of these initiatives and find the best way to do that, I would imagine the education page would probably be 3 weeks after the site gets launched. That's one of the higher priority pieces. And then even within that, to experiment and to A/B split test various ways that we can educate. That'll be the next thing, is to have the infrastructure where, of course, if we're paying retail prices, a video alone could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000. And well, that's not going to scale very quickly if we want to drop a video a day. So we need to come up with innovative solutions that are going to be scalable and sustainable for what we're doing. Yep. And Bull Sander and everybody else absolutely agreed that besides the crowd loan and hiring more substrate developers, and of course we're looking to hire others that are looking to learn, but really substrate developers is who we have 3 openings for right now. And pretty soon we even go so far as running PPC and going through and putting posts on various job boards and really shaking as many trees as we can to be able to bring folks in, because once we hire the next round of substrate devs, the idea is to go from the couple hundred people we have in the substrate developers group and see what does it take to get thousands of people learning substrate development. It's part of why we're here in Kyiv. So huge initiative is the crowd loan, huge initiative is building up the dev community, and a huge initiative is our marketing, which a part of the marketing is the website. Now, I do understand how it could seem a bit unfortunately, it could be apparently disingenuous or misleading that when I'm describing marketing, I'm talking about all of these other moving pieces. When previously, I think the expectation might have been that the only thing that's really happening in the background is that we're making a website. that's part of the idea behind this series, is to find out, well, what would it actually take to break down all of what's happening behind the scenes, what's really being done, and the many moving pieces that are coming together and coalescing to what we believe will give us the highest probability of success as a project and as a community. And while the website is one component to marketing, it is something where, well, the many elements that I've alluded to in the previous part of this video, and I'm confident there will be literally hours and hours more of the attention to detail, the specific steps, the actions, and the logic behind the steps that we're taking. And again, the idea behind this is for scrutiny, it's for feedback. It might be a little bit painful, and I'd appreciate maintaining a level of respect. We're all humans doing our best here. At the same time, it is something where, as humans, we recognize that we're not perfect. There are better ways to do things. And if somebody has or sees them, we definitely want to hear that. And that's where the militia group comes in. Yeah, you know, if there's some web developers lurking in the midst, I would love to see you in the militia. I'd love to chat with you. You know, coming to the content, it is their big bad wolf. The challenge is that the current content, at least from the feedback we've gotten, it leads people to believe that we're just an Oracle project. And the challenge is that's not going to likely give us a very strong perception in the blockchain ecosystem. If people think that we're just another XYZ Oracle project, but maybe on Polkadot, we don't have much of a sticky messaging or concept to be able to inspire participation within our community, either as a bag holder or as a builder. Bag holder and builder, I like that. Anyway, so it's something where the thing that was the halt was figuring out, well, how do we change that? What do we actually say? What does that look like? How do we make it not too technical, but at the same time, not too general? It's a fine balance. And to be frank, we've got the design and development almost there. And the round one copy, we're going to be slapping on immediately afterwards. So even that's going to be something that's transforming. But it is something where it's each element does, there's a lot of intangible pieces that we're putting into this that arguably are not necessary. And it is possible we could have had a site faster and something likely competent, even better than what we have now, faster. But to have something with substance, with strength, something that is likely going to help take us to the $10 billion and beyond market cap level that we're looking for, with a strategy that makes sense within the range of limited resources we have available of time, effort, and of course, capital. It is something where it just made a lot more sense for myself. And I was responsible for the leadership decision. So it is something where I'll take responsibility if this wasn't the most efficient and for slowdowns that have happened along the way. But it made sense that we sharpen our axe first before we start swinging at the tree and taking up all our energy. And while maybe we won't take 4 hours out of 6 to sharpen the axe and 2 hours to cut down the tree, but whatever the proportion might have been in the whole old Abe Lincoln example. But it is something where I wanted to make sure that we were at least on the right track, that there was a clear trajectory from that's probably going to get us to 10 billion to, oh, wow, we have a lot to do to get there. So we can just then work together as a community on what are the top priorities? What type of resourcing might that take? Okay, does anybody have any major rebuttals, questions, comments, ideas, emotional outbursts? Now's your time. Speak now or forever hold your peace, because it's a very fast moving system we're building. And now that we've got that in place, it is something that I would imagine the content part becomes relatively simple. But it's one of those funny parts about systems, is that if a system is built well, you shouldn't really ever notice that it's there, and it should look like it's happening easily. But the reality is that to make a system that does that type of stuff is actually extraordinarily difficult. And that's what we decided to dive into and attack. It was a bit ambitious, and it did have things delayed. I would say that operational delays had kept things back by, well, I would estimate in the multiple months and time period. And that's just since I've been here. And as far as effective delays, just as a result of underestimating how difficult something might actually be, well, that's taken about a week. And again, mostly because we've had to change things, the environment and the circumstances changed. It's a wild ride, this roller coaster that we're on here in blockchain. And I unfortunately, the reality is that that is the standard of this space. Though, as a project expands and grows from micro cap to small cap to mid cap, we see that volatility, not just in terms of the economic metrics, but also in terms of the operational side of things, will likely smoothen out as we expand. So we're still early, my friend. So it is an argument that perhaps we're wasting time and making it too complex. And maybe we are, but I know that I was able to effectuate the move to start bringing people on a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very satisfied that in less than a month, we've been able to get a whole lot going. And while we did get a chance to get started, the zigzagging definitely did take from the efficiency of what we were hoping to be able to put together. And on my side, I can take responsibility that I vastly underestimated the amount of resources it would take to put together something properly. And I also underestimated just how much work and how much opportunity we had to improve as a company. I love this image with the particle effect. It looks like an hourglass to me. Yeah, so it's something where when it comes down to can we get KSM from different VCs? We have talked with VCs and we're actively having conversations. It is just something where we're talking to people about moving money and it doesn't happen instantly. So we do have these conversations. Both Kylin and I are talking with different whales and investors. It's just that's what we're doing in addition to everything else that you've heard me talking about. And while we can talk with a whole bunch of folks, guiding them to where there's a deal and a structure outside of the normal VC interactions. We can say we have hundreds of thousands of DOT committed because we went through the VC process of presenting and pitch decks and nurturing that relationship and having some kind of expected value that is along the lines of what a VC is looking for. And these the KSM auctions, these conversations are newer. Pichiu in its existence is something that was a fairly recent addition, and getting the capital and everything for it. What we saw is that it's highly likely we're going to be able to bring together enough within a reasonable period of time, probably right around the beginning of Q1. It's what we've been saying for the better part of the last couple months. And as of right now, it does appear to still be the case. So there are conversations happening right now. I'm optimistic because I've noticed a lot of people getting very excited hearing about Gen2 Oracles, machine learning systems, data warehousing on Polkadot, as well as a marketplace where projects can put up what type of data that they are looking for. And there can be an ecosystem of builders who can come together and help to put these things together, because of course they're going to want the query fees. It's an exciting concept that people are beginning to understand, but we've got to change the narrative. We were in Oracle because that's part of what we do. It is also part of what I believe has made things a bit more difficult, because then it's differentiating ourselves outside of it. And there's nothing wrong with being an Oracle. It's just that being an Oracle that's not on mainnet yet means that we're not able to do a whole lot for folks. So yeah, we're where we are right now, dealing with what we have. It is something where I feel good about being able to get the Kusama that we'll be needing, but it is something where we're going to have to be able to roll out a front end so that way people can stake their Kusama more easily. This is something that we should have had ready before launching Pichiu. But again, we had to have it early. So that was just unfortunately poor timing. Having better operational systems should help us avoid these types of situations going into this next year. Also, it's something where being able to now have effective marketing getting out there and content consistently moving. Our team's been able to really get grinding for weeks now. So that's something that we can have it so that it's been less than a month and already we've got a pretty noticeable difference in the amount of material getting out there and how it's impacting such. And all of these touch points that occur is just a wider net that can help us with the crowd loan. So it is something where, in our opinion, it's a delicate balance between the individual one-on-one type conversations between working with partnerships and being able to facilitate the tech side of things and the collaborations, as well as the marketing and messaging to make sure that we can get everything out there. And while it's been a messy process, it does look like we're touching ground soon. I'm just scrolling through some finish up in here. Right, and government subsidies and scholarships for blockchain. I know, if only. All right, well, hey, everybody who is stuck around for almost 3 hours collectively, damn near 5. Thank you so much for watching this. You're watching the recording. You as well. We're testing out this new, not new as far as like it's never been done before, but new for us as a brand, style of this ultra long form content. It's not that we mean to have me just sit in front of a camera and ramble all day long. Obviously, I've got a lot of other things to do. It's why I am going to have to go. At the same time, it's something where the idea is that we recognized a bit of a bottleneck, that as leadership, we're doing so many things all the time, every day, that we can't type fast enough to get the right information in the right people's hands to be able to share that with everybody else. And when those problems persisted over the course of months and now a year, it's something where it seems pretty clear that going into this next year, we've got to have better transparency. We've got to have better systems, and we need to be able to work together more like a community that's building a decentralized autonomous organization, meaning that we're working together, we're collaborating, we're seeing how can we help, and what does that take, and then looking at, well, what value might there be from that? Because if we know what we're working towards and we know what it takes and we can all work together to make it happen, that means that we're also writing we're writing our story as we go, essentially. So it's a beautiful situation that we have. We'll be continuing to chip away, talking more and more detail about the specifics of our marketing strategy, talking about the value of decision-making pipelines, going into more information and more detail about what exactly is machine learning and artificial intelligence. What is the opportunity for the average person? How does this impact the world at large? And what in the world is Pichiu doing on Kusama? And how do we win this auction? And what happens next? And so much more that I'm going to readjust my expectations. And I don't think it's going to be 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours. I think it is going to be a solid double-digit plus hours to be able to get all this information out. So going to readjust the strategy. This is part of why we run tests, so we can at least set a baseline for how something works. Because then from there, we can make adjustments accordingly. So in this case here, as opposed to trying to ape one giant live feed, which if I was shotgunning solutions, I could have, but because the intention is to stitch this together into future content, it's valuable and useful to go deep and meaningful and to think these things through. And in the spirit of relentless authenticity, I also think that it's best in terms of being an example of what I personally believe a DAO should be about, which is people that are obsessed with how do we make as much value as possible for the community at large. Well, everybody, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you, chatting, and any feedback at all, want to help, want to ask questions directly, drop some stuff in the chat. The link for the militia will be available there. Until next time, y'all. Bye for now.